minutes.
Yeah.
Vermont is cool, we got out of the car.
What do you guys sit on your mics?
Thin snow, yeah. Full of snow.
Eileen, are we good? Okay, in accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board, town hall, and mailing to the officially designated newspapers a list of the meeting dates annually, indicating that this meeting would take place at the town hall at 7 p.m. on April 15th, 2024.
Joseph Caulfield,
Here.
Chandra Harjani,
Here.
Gary Rosen,
Here.
Regina Truitt,
Here.
Georgianne Peng,
Here.
Jessica Blatt.
Here. Okay. So we are going to start with the approval of minutes from 3/4/24. Are there any corrections or changes? Does anyone want to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of 3/4/24.
All in favor?
Second.
Oh, sorry, second.
I'll second that.
Second, all in favor?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have some memorializations. The first one is calendar 396924. That's Sangvi and Kapadia from 15 Park Road in Short Hills. Do we have any corrections or changes? Does anyone want to make a motion?
Eligible are
Oh.
Joseph, Chandra, Gary, Regina, Georgianne.
Motion to approve the memorialization for calendar number 3969-24.
I'll second.
Joseph Caulfield,
Yes.
Chandra Harjani,
Yes.
Gary Rosen,
Yes.
Regina Truitt,
Yes.
Georgianne Peng,
Yes.
Can we let the record show that Priscilla Saraf has joined the meeting? Okay, next up, we have calendar 396724, Lynn Dempner. That's 14 Great Hills Terrace in Short Hills. Who's eligible?
Joseph Caulfield, Chandra, Gary, Regina, Priscilla, Georgianne.
Any corrections or changes? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve calendar 3967-24.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Joseph Caulfield,
Yes.
Chandra Harjani,
Yes.
Gary Rosen,
Yes.
Regina Truitt,
Yes.
Priscilla Saraf,
Yes.
Georgianne Peng.
Yes.
Okay, next up, we have calendar 397024, Solmaz and James Queen. That's 15 Greenwood Drive in Milburn. Who's eligible?
Same.
Same. Do we have any corrections or changes? Would someone like to make a motion?
Move to approve. Calendar number 397024.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Joseph Caulfield,
Yes.
Chandra Harjani.
Yes.
Gary Rosen.
Yes.
Regina Truitt.
Yes.
Priscilla Saraf,
Yes.
Georgianne Peng.
Yes.
Okay, and finally, we have calendar 3972-24. That's Mecca Property Development, 18 Willow Street in Milburn. And same, any corrections or changes? Would someone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to calendar 3972-24.
I can second.
Joseph Caulfield,
Yes.
Chandra Harjani.
Yes.
Gary Rosen.
Yes.
Regina Truitt.
Yes.
Priscilla Saraf,
Yes.
Georgianne Peng.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so first up, we have calendar number 3946-23. This matter was carried from 3/4/24. The applicant is Hongwei Q. Okay, would you like to come up? And do you want to swear them in?
If you swear in, if you just raise your hand. Do you swear from testimony about to give tonight to be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Your names for the record.
Whom are you? Christine Maseo, M-I-S-E-O.
And do you want to just provide your qualifications?
Absolutely. I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey. I've been before this board a number of times, received my degree, Bachelor of Architecture, in 1981 from Illinois Institute of Technology. Received my license shortly after in Illinois, New York, and then started practicing in New Jersey in, I believe, 1986, and I've had my practice ever since.
Great, your qualifications have been accepted.
Thank you. We're here before you to,
Christine, even before we start, I'm just gonna ask you just to clarify.
that's exactly the first thing I was gonna
Plan
say.
sheets we're dealing with, what variances.
That's exactly what I was
remain,
gonna
and
do.
the extent of the deviation, so the board has a good foundation from which to get started.
The drawings that you originally received for this application are dated 7/26/23. It was a much, much larger application. The application has been modified to be considerably smaller, and the front page is dated 4/8/24. And the main difference is the number of variances required and the overall size of the addition. There were 5 variances previous, and the floor area ratio was 34.5%. And we decided that we were going to make the addition much smaller, and now there are only 2 variances required, and the addition is 37.8% out of 36%.
Wait. What do you mean by that? In other
The
words,
floor area ratio.
So what you're saying is that the required FAR for the zone is 36%?
Yes.
And the applicant is proposing 37.8%?
Correct. And I was just going to go through all the variances. The 2 variances that we are requesting is front yard setback. The front yard is existing non-conforming at 20 feet. And with the main portion of the house is 20 feet. And we are also putting a porch that lines up with that 20-foot line. But unfortunately, the way the lot curves around the corner, I'm just clipping the corner of the edge of the porch. So that number is 18.2 feet. The floor area ratio that we are requesting is 37.8%, and 36% is required in the zone. The other front yard setback and side or rear, because of the corner lot, are also existing non-conforming, but we are not putting any additions on top of the existing garage that is existing non-conforming. And the addition that we are putting on the right side of the property, we are making 41.6 feet, where the existing is 39 feet. So we are not encroaching on that setback. So we've taken the rear yard setback away, the right side front yard setback away, and also lowering our floor area ratio that was originally submitted a couple months back. Two Winding Way is in the R6 district. And the required lot size is 6,000 square feet. Our lot is 8145. We have one neighbor next to us, and that would be on what would be the east side. And we are adding an approximately 11-foot addition on that side, but we are still double what is required, almost double what is required for a side yard setback. That is our only residential neighbor. To the south of the property is St. Rosa Lima, and then we have corners where we have no neighbors adjacent to the property. The house is a small post-war Cape Cod, was built in approximately 1949. I understand that neighborhood was built between 48 and 51. And it's a 2-bath, 2-bedroom, 1.5-story house. And it is the first lot on Winding Way in the corner of Pine and Winding Way. We are looking for a C1 variance with an existing nonconformity, and we are also looking for a D4 variance for floor area ratio. The C1 variance, I think, is pretty straightforward. The house is existing nonconforming, and as I had said, other than the corner that clips, we are not going past the original front of the house. And
What are you proposing in that corner?
an open porch. So there will be no wall on the right side and in the front, and it will only have a wall to the left and the rear. So what that would be is just railing. As you can see on A1 dated 4/8/24, we have a front porch that will just accent the 2-story area. The area near the front porch is set back, and then the second floor area to the left of the front porch is set back to give the elevation a little bit of movement and to take away some of the mass. I did not want to just put a big box on top of a box. So we've got roof lines, we've got some box bay windows, we've got a couple gables. Another thing that I did is I lowered the gable plate height on the right side to soften the height of the addition also. I didn't want this to feel real tall. We do not need any height variances. We conform with our height variance, we conform with our lot coverage, and we conform with our impervious coverage. And as you can see, the right side elevation, the garage sticks out, and you can see that on the SP sheet especially, and that's this piece here. This is at 39 feet. What we did is we pushed the addition back a few feet, so we're at 41, I believe, 6, just so we are less towards the right side front yard, and also gives the house a little bit of dimension instead of a big flat box. The rear of the property, this existing garage is very close to the rear yard fence, which is the fence along St. Rosa Lima. We are not building over that, and instead we are only building over the existing house. I believe this setback is around 9 feet, and the main house setback is, I just want to look real quick, is 19 feet. And then we do have a small deck in the rear, a one-story deck that's low to the ground, that is about 14 feet from this. You know what, I don't know, maybe somebody can clarify. Is it rear or side?
It's a side. You don't
It is
have-
side, okay, the side. This side yard setback. And as you can see, the house does have movement on the lot to try to conform to the shape of the lot. The house now is a rather small 2-bedroom up Cape Cod. And what we are looking to do is provide 3 bedrooms upstairs, a laundry, 2 bathrooms, and a small office. And on the first floor, basically what we're doing is we are gutting the main house and providing a very large open plan with an 11-foot addition for kitchen/great room. So that kitchen, dining room, great room combination is approximately 27 by 30. And then we have a small bedroom, 11 by 14 on the first floor. And that would be a bedroom for my clients' parents when they come to visit. And also it works that they can stay in this house as they get older. They would be able to live in the house with a bedroom on the first floor. They would not have to climb the stairs. So they can definitely age in place in this home. We have a full bath, a powder room, and a back mudroom that leads directly to the garage. And then, as I had said, we have a very small little deck to the backyard. And upstairs, primary bedroom, 18 by 13 walk-in closet, primary bath, 3 bedrooms, approximately 11.5 by 11.5, and an office, approximately 11.5 by 11.
So what will be upstairs? 4 bedrooms?
3 bedrooms and an office.
So you're going from 2 bedroom, 2 bath to 4 bedroom, 4 bath?
4 bedroom, 3 bath.
3 bath.
1 full bath downstairs and 2 full baths upstairs. Isn't that? Yeah, we have a full bath here.
I saw 2 toilets.
Yes.
No, there's a one here. Oh, there's a powder room on the first floor. But that's, 1 powder room and 3 full baths. 3.5. I'm so It's hot outside.
Want to address specifically the FAR variance?
That's what, yes. The D4 FAR variance we're requesting is 1.8%. It is approximately a little over 150 square feet. Originally, we were requesting over 400 square feet, and we did have an extra bedroom upstairs, and downstairs was much bigger. And after long discussions with my clients, I explained to him that you're not going to get it, 1, but 2, it's a little big for the lot. And I think with the house, with the lesser bedrooms upstairs, it pulled away from the right side, not building over the garage to the rear, and pulling in the addition towards the left neighbor. It brings the scale of this addition down to be appropriate with the lot. One of the items for the D4 variance is that if the about the massing and composition of the house on the property. And I feel that the site can accommodate this because it's a very, very long piece of property. Unfortunately, it's a very narrow piece of property because of the way the house is set on Winding Way versus set on Pine. But as a corner lot with 2 front yards, you're often limited that you can't have that nice square house in a long, narrow lot. You have to stretch the house out to make it work. And also the house is existing non-conforming. I think that the roof lines that I've provided make the house more pleasing, and the gables and whatnot are an advantage for this design, and I think it's works well with the neighborhood. I think it's within the scale and the character of a lot of the houses in the neighborhood. The loss of light and air and open space is not necessarily an issue with this design because we are so far from our left side neighbor. We're over 22 feet from the side yard setback. And with St. Rosa Lima, we're looking at a parking lot, unfortunately. So we got lots of light and air to the rear. And because it's a corner lot, we have really no encumbrances on the 2 fronts. I don't believe that there is any substantial detriment to the public with this house, because I think the house will be an attractive addition to the neighborhood. I think this addition boosts the property value of this home considerably. And within boosting the property value of this home, it also improves the property values of homes in the neighborhood. I believe that this building project could advance a number of the goals in the land use law. That it's good for the general welfare. It brings the house up to current standards with modern appliances, amenities, bathrooms, and room sizes. It also allows for the owner to stay in this house well beyond his running up the stair days. So I think it also promotes a desirable visual environment for the neighborhood. I'm trying to think. I think that is pretty much it. If you have any questions. Yes.
To the left of the great room on the first floor, is that another little deck?
Yeah, just because of the way the grade is and it's sliding glass doors, you can't have steps right out by code. I need a platform.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So it's really not deck per se, it's more a way to get down, but by code, I can't just.
So there's a door off the great room?
Yes, because of the side yard. This lot, as you saw, is sort of unique. It really has no backyard. It's got a small patio, but it's not really usable. And you've got the fence, you've got the parking right here. This would be the area most likely that their children would play.
So there's 3 doors to the house. There's the side, the backyard, and the front door.
No, there's 4 doors to the house. There's one on every elevation. There's one in the on the front that goes to that bedroom den. There's one on the other front that is the main entry. And then there is one to the rear. And then there's one big, all of these are 12-foot sliding glass doors to the side and the rear, or the 2 sides. I'm sorry, I'm really perspiring.
So look,
No, I was just gonna say, any other questions?
Yeah, so I commend you in terms of the work you've done to scale this down. I think the original ask was way
Yeah.
over the top, way over the top. This is clearly better. I do wonder, just looking at that street, and I know you have some photos here of other houses, I'm not sure why they're there, but when I look at that street, there are smaller houses, and I still wonder how this house as proposed would compare to other houses on the street. And so do you have any information about the FARs for the other houses on the street?
I don't necessarily have FARs, but I do have information. I looked through the tax information that the town has online in terms of how big the houses are. And the houses in the neighborhood, other than the one that was just granted a variance, I believe, in December, which I think is about 3,500 square feet. Most of these houses are between 1,800 square feet and 3,000, a little over 3,000 square feet. So there are other homes that are in the high twos and a couple just a touch over 3. And what I did is I took 5 houses to the right, and I took 5 houses across the street. So I compared those 10 houses, though I do know that there were a couple new houses up Pine being built. And like I said, I believe 29 Winding Way had a pretty, is a pretty sizable house that's ready to be built.
So what's the square footage that you're proposing here?
The total square footage,
In terms of, if you're saying most of the homes in the.
is 2,000, I'm sorry, is 2,777 square feet.
And your lot size is 8,000 and change.
Yes,
So to Gary's point, you didn't, from the tax records, look at the size of the lot in relation to the square footage in the neighborhood.
I didn't go to floor area ratio. I really just went to sizes of the homes. Just like with this lot, you see the house, you don't necessarily see how big the lot is. That lot could be twice the size. No one really realizes how skinny it is driving by. And it's the same with a number of other lots. There's quite a few lots on Winding Way that have the same sort of limitations, the corner lots. And this one, are all approximately 70 feet deep. The houses face Winding Way, coming around. And so you have very, very short front yards. Those houses all have approximately 20-foot front yards. And so you have longer houses on Winding Way. I did not necessarily get the square footages of these houses. What I did is I basically worked within the houses within the 200 feet. I think I went to lot 15, lot 17, number 18.
And just one quick follow-up question for me. In terms of St. Rose next door, I think it would be helpful to the application if you describe to the board what's going on with that lot. If you know.
Yes. Right now, basically you've got parking, you've got machines being stored. There's, I believe they're doing some minor construction. There's a lot of, I don't want to say junk, but garbage. Basically, what would be along this fence line, most of the cars park here, and there's stuff just sort of hanging out here. So it's not a real desirable look. We would,
How big is the buildings on that property?
St. Rose, I don't have the exact size, but you've got a church, you've got a school, you've got I believe there's a rectory. So there's very, very large buildings and a very, very large parking lot on the property to the rear.
But they're much further down.
No, well, yeah, the buildings sit right about here. And all of this is pavement.
Just a question, so the existing FAR was at 17.3%. You're building up the second floor.
Yes.
If you double that up, it comes to about 35, little less than 35%. How do I reconcile that 35% doubling to the 37.8?
Because we are adding a 2-story, 11-foot by 30-foot addition to the left side of the house. And that would be, if you take a look at the SP, that is this strip right here. So it's, this area is a 2-story addition. That 2-story addition is what will house the, basically the master bedroom. And then on the first floor, it is the kitchen and great room, or the kitchen and portions of the great room.
And roughly, what are the dimensions of both those areas?
11 by 30, 31. So it's about 1,200 square feet,
1,200 square.
give or take. Yes.
Question again about the entryways. There's, the steps and the door to the right of the proposal.
This one?
Will they be visible from the street? So I'm looking at page A1 of your handout.
Yes, because that is the,
There you go. Right there.
yes, they would be right here.
And how about on the other side? That would also be visible from the street?
No, because the garage extends quite a bit past that. As you can, here, it's easier to see. Here, the garage comes all the way out to here, those steps are down here. So you would not see the steps out the back from Pine.
How about from the front? From the front of the house? It looks like when I'm looking at the front elevation, you have steps on the side here?
Those are steps here on the, towards Pine,
Right, so would they be visible from the front elevation?
yes.
And where do those go into? That's to the extra bedroom? That's into the freestanding bedroom?
Yes, that is the first floor bedroom.
And do those steps and those structures add to your FAR?
No, because they're non-covered and they're just steps. They're listed in coverage, lot coverage, but they would not be considered an FAR.
And I guess it's conforming to have steps like that visible from the front?
Steps.
The side and the steps?
Yeah, the steps are fine. Very easily.
Thank you.
Just one follow-up question to my previous
Sure.
one. So you added 31 by 11
Yes,
on 2 levels. That adds up to about 680 square feet.
600, yeah, not 1,200.
Right, so just help us understand the thought process in going, because you're only up by 150,
Yes.
right, for your 1.8%. So what was the thought process in going with 31 by 11 versus say 31 by 9, which would actually make you conforming?
The problem had to do with, 31 to, we still would be over a little. I'd have to go almost
Yeah,
3
30
feet.
about-
I'd almost have to go 3
Right,
feet.
right. I mean,
Uh,
the question is, how did you think about if at all it was possible to mitigate this ask?
Just because of the size of the master bedroom. If we would have cut 3 feet off the master bedroom, it would be 13 by 15, which is really sort of borderline. It's not a very big master bedroom. It would be considered a big master bedroom for houses built in the 50s, but houses built in 2024, a 13 by 15 or a little bit under 13 by 15 master bedroom would be considered lacking in terms of resale and everything else. The primary bathroom, they wanted a big steeping tub and shower, a private toilet and a sink. If we cut 3 feet off of that, it would be very difficult to accommodate that. As it is, the bedrooms, the kids' bedrooms are not very large. They're they're about 11 and a half by 11 and a half, which is not a big bedroom. That's really a 1-kid bedroom. It's really tough to try to put 2 kids in an 11 by 11 bedroom nowadays. And even the office is only 11 by 11. So we shrank the house considerably. I mean, the master bedroom was quite a bit bigger. We had a 4th bedroom upstairs, plus these bedrooms were all larger. And we came to the conclusion that it was getting a little greedy and asking for too much. I think asking for this 150 square feet over the floor area ratio is a reasonable ask. We would have to come before you anyway because of the house's existing non-conforming with the front yard setback. And we felt that the 150 square feet would not change the neighborhood. If we cut 3 feet off the house, would you notice driving by? Probably not. And I don't think it would change the mass of the house any either. But that 3 feet would really change the kitchen, the great room, the way they want to be able to use this space. This space is kitchen, dining room, family room. This is the main portion of the house. And, my client can testify to how many people will be living in the house and his family and whatnot, and then you get a better idea of what is needed. Oh, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, does anyone else have any questions?
Just one more, sorry to ask many questions.
No.
The front yard setback, are you exacerbating that with this proposal?
Yes, as I had testified before, the porch is exactly in line, but the way the lot curves, just this corner
Okay.
cuts over. And from what we had investigated from the front elevation of the house, that it would look a little hinky if that porch ended here versus at the end of the house. So if we cut that porch off and it ended right here, I think it would look foolish. It would look like somebody made a mistake or the builder screwed up. We felt that to line up with the side of the house, though we are not going past the front of the house, would be the way to go.
But that's the only part that is affecting.
Yes, everything else that we're adding is either exactly in line or quite a bit behind what the existing 20 feet is.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Did you say your applicant wants to speak to?
Okay. Sorry. Hello, everyone. My name is Hong Wei Chu. So we purchased the house about 2018. At that time, my kids are small, but we didn't think school is important. But at that point, we finally realized, hey, we need to move. So we after we moved here, signed up after the summer, right? So the kids came back from school. They really enjoyed Glenwood. They like all the teachers, students, and Dr. Jason. They are really involved in the teaching, all the activities, right? So at that time, we really didn't think like the house is too small because the kids are small. One of them was still sleeping in our room. So the house doesn't have a formal like a dining room. There's no family room, and so we changed one of the room on the first floor into a kind of like family room, but separated by a wall to the kitchen. And as the kids growing bigger, we found that it's becoming a problem. My parents and my parents-in-law, they come here like, visit us for a couple of times, and really it's becoming very crowded. And then the pandemic started, and so it's a mess. So everybody having a meeting or class in the same area. So once my wife was having a meeting, the manager was like, "Hey, can you move to somewhere else?" So it's becoming a problem. And since then, like my wife was like, keep it like a dream to make it bigger, right? So so finally, I think now we can do that. That's why we come to the board to ask the approval, and since then, I guess before the pandemic, my wife has a kind of normal job, goes to the office, but now she landed a job like working from home. So she need a kind of office that is going to add to the floor area, right? And what else? So everything else, I think Chris talked about already. It's a corner lot, and I think I want the board to consider that. We do have a hardship. One more thing is we both my wife and me. We really like the current design. We shrink the lot already, and the current design is the result of working with Chris, with my wife several times, like going through this process several times. We remove the bathroom above the entrance, shrink the office. In the end, we come up with this size, and we don't think it's bulky. Also because we are a corner lot on Winding Way. There is another corner lot the board just approved, right? So we are asking like less than 3,000. That's the floor area, and their floor area I think is much larger than ours. And as Chris said, the house is really an old one. The previous owner didn't do much, and we didn't have time to do any improvement from inside or outside. So inside is outdated, outside, if you drive through, you will know what I'm talking about. And I think if we have the chance to work on that, it's going to be really making the neighborhood, the house will be nice, making the neighborhood look nice. So I think in the end, I don't think we are going to hurt the public, but in the end, will help the public, right? So I hope the board consider all these elements. So to answer some of your question, I think behind the our property in the rear side, we are next to a parking lot, the church.
Your architect went over that.
Yeah, okay. That's all what I want to say. Yeah. Do you have any question for me?
Any questions from the audience, from the applicant? Do you have anything else to add?
I can't think of anything.
Do we have any comments from the audience for this application? And then we'll open it up to the board.
I guess I'm a little torn on it. I do, as I said before, I do commend you for taking this down substantially. I think the ask was just too much before. I do worry a little bit about how this will kind of look in the rest of the neighborhood. I do think the house I think this will look better than the current house, and the current house is small, I acknowledge that, and I do think there needs to be some expansion of the house. But I do worry a little bit about how it will fit in. I do think you benefit from the fact that you're on a corner lot, that you have the St. Rose of Lima parking lot behind you. I think that makes it easier rather than you being sort of surrounded by other houses. So I'm a little bit on the fence on it, but I I do appreciate the effort to scale it down, and I think I could be supportive, but I'd like to hear from my colleagues.
I'll go next. So I agree with what Mr. Rosen said, but I do appreciate that you've made it a lot smaller. I can certainly understand the hardship. It's literally called winding ways, so I think there are some curves there that make it a hardship. So I can appreciate that you've taken measures to try to make a nice design, given the restraints of the hardship. So I don't love those steps to the side, which you probably know, but they're in compliance, so nothing I can do about that. And it's a little bit of a big massing with that big square roof, but all in all, I would be supportive of this application because I think you've taken it down as far as you can to be reasonable to accommodate the hardships that exist on this property.
Yeah, I could be supportive as well. I think the effort that you all have made to bring it down, I think it's commendable. And while I don't like that 150 square feet, but I do see that that's the need here, and it's not a very steep ask. And I think that road can hold it, that property can hold that extra over the FAR is my point.
I share Gary's point of view, read my mind almost. One thing that jumps off the page of me though is that since the lot is essentially turned perpendicular to all the other lots in that area, it seems to me that it can afford that enlargement, if you will. So I'd be, again, I know exactly what you're saying on that. I would be supportive of this as well.
I would agree too. I think the location of the property makes a big difference, with it being a corner lot and right next to the church. We never evaluate, overages when it comes to FAR, but I think that the house can, and the neighborhood can handle the extra 150 square feet. I'm not that concerned about the massing. I do think the lot can handle it. So I would be able to support this application as well. Does anyone want to make a motion?
So before anyone makes a motion, just want to remind the board that this is a FAR variance. So it's a form of form of D variance of 40.55 D-70 D4. And as a result of that, it requires 5 affirmative votes from the board to pass.
Should we break it out?
Yeah, that would be a good idea, to
Okay.
break it up between the D4 variance
Yeah.
and then what has been submitted as a C1 variance request.
So,
I can move approval for calendar 3946-23 for the D variance,
D4 variance.
D4 variance.
I'll second.
Joseph Caulfield,
Yes.
Chandra Rajani,
Yes.
Gary Rosen,
Yes.
Regina Truitt,
Yes.
Priscilla Sarah,
Yes.
Georgiana Ken,
Yes.
Jessica Black.
yes.
And then for the C.
So,
I can move approval for calendar 3946-23 for the C variance.
I can second.
Joseph Caulfield,
Yes.
Chandra Rajani.
Yes.
Gary Rosen.
Yes.
Regina Truitt,
Yes.
Priscilla Sarah,
Yes.
Georgiana Ken,
Yes.
Jessica Black.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No pressure, very well.
Oh, okay, because I was gonna give out your name. That's fine, but I'll take it up for this. I was gonna give you a fresh one.
Great, next up, we have calendar 397124. The location is 404 White Oak Ridge Road, and the applicant is Shweta, with Betty.
That's correct.
Who's going to testify?
I'm the owner.
The applicant. Raise your right hand. Anyone who's going to testify needs to raise your right hand.
Go ahead.
You're going to say something, yes, it is.
Yes.
Right hand. Right hand.
Right.
Do you swear or affirm testimony you're about to give in tonight's hearing to be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Your names for the record, please.
Shweta Dwivedi.
Imad Abu Sabi,
Just spell your,
ABOUSABE.
thank you.
So, good evening, everyone. My name is Shweta Dwivedi, owner of 404 White Oak. Been in town for almost 10 years, but I complete 10 years this June. We bought this home in 2014. And over a period of 10 years, we've had 2 kids as a small family. And as a part of this application that we are doing, I'd just like to speak a little bit about what brings us here. I'm a product manager with Wells Fargo, so I work from home with this new pandemic, post-pandemic operations. And my spouse is a part of Robert Wood Johnson. So as a part of this application that we are doing, we are working on the second floor of the house, only the second floor of the house. If you look at the pictures, it's narrow and tiny, and we need to make it more functional to accommodate our growing family. Technically, we are only expanding within the property line of the house. So, and if I literally talk about the additions, we are adding just 1 bathroom. But when you look at the designs, just as a part of expansion, we are, I would say, reconfiguring the second floor a little bit. So swapping bedrooms in such a way that we get a bigger master and slightly bigger closets, because that's our pain point right now, and adding 1 master bath to the second floor. And the whole idea is to accommodate our family on the second floor of the house, making it more functional. I've just delivered a baby 6 months ago, so the idea is to continue living here and to continue upgrading the house as a part of our lifestyle. Okay, thank you. Sorry, any questions?
My name is Imad Abu Sabi. For qualifications, I'm a professional planner in the state of New Jersey, graduate of Rutgers University, been licensed in good standing. I have testified before boards for 25 years in planning. I'm also a licensed landscape architect. I'm the project designer, and I'll be testifying to the merits of this application.
Okay, your qualifications have been accepted.
Thank you.
Can I just ask, maybe for you to move that closer to you, just so the other board members can see it?
Thank you.
While I'm doing that, I'll point out that this exhibit is not in your packet. I can mark it Exhibit A. And I have a handout for you to see. To see it much more closely.
So and you're the only one who's going to be testifying tonight, the architect is not here.
The architect is here in case we need him, but I can testify to really all the merits of the project. In the interest of brevity, I think I can cover it all if that's okay with you. Okay. So I'm passing out this, what I call presentation images handout. Yep.
So,
Yes.
so what you're handing out is a duplicate of what you're showing on the easel. It's just a smaller version.
It is, I also have a duplicate of what you have in front of you. This is an additional image that shows some aerial information and some tax map information.
No, but what I'm asking is that what you're handing out
Oh, yes.
is identical to what you're showing
Yes, it is.
on the 2x3
Yes.
plan, correct?
Yes, it
So
is.
we're gonna mark this as A1 with today's date. And so the record should reflect that Exhibit A1 is being marked for identification with today's date, and you provided duplicates in, I guess, by 11 by 17 form in color to the members of the board and professionals.
That is correct. So thank you for having us. I'm going to go through a couple of things. I'm going to begin with a description of the variances that are sought. I'm going to describe the project itself and then testify to the special reasons why we think that this project variance relief can be granted. The variances that are sought are for side yard setback. There are existing nonconformities, two of them, one for building coverage and the other for lot coverage. I can refer you to the application itself in the attachment F, where the numbers are described, and also in attachment E. And here I apologize that my slide rule was not working that day. The existing right yard setback is 6.7 feet. The required is 22. Therefore, the deviation is 15.25. And the same for the left side variance. The existing distance from the property line is 14.8. Required is 22. The deviation is 7.2 feet. That just clears up some of that.
Could you repeat that? I wasn't
Yeah.
following that at all.
Yes.
So what you're referring to
Yes,
is attachment E,
yes,
where under the column extent of variance,
yes,
for the right side, side yard setback, you have 13.25, and that's an error, and it should be 15.25. And for the left side, side yard setback on that same column in attachment E, it should be 7.20, not 5.20.
that is correct. Thank you. The design proposal is as the applicant has described. It is a second floor alteration. The second floor exists as 2 bedrooms and a bath and an office. It will remain 2 bedrooms and an office and a bath, and we're adding a second full bathroom. I'll point you to this image over here. What you see is the existing facade and the proposed facade. What we're doing is essentially taking the dormer and shifting it to the left. We're taking the roof, which goes front to back, and essentially tilting it up to accommodate the infill of that square footage. All of this is being done within the confines of the existing footprint. There's no going beyond it. We're providing more storage, increasing bedroom size, the second full bathroom as stated. We are adding egress windows as required to update for the new bedroom spaces. We're changing out existing windows potentially based on cost in the interest of overall building uniformity. We're replacing the roofing and siding, increasing the insulation per the new codes where needed to improve its thermal efficiency. That is in a nutshell the building expansion. Like I said, we're maintaining the ridge height, we're popping up the front and back, we're moving the dormer and infilling with those enlarged spaces. There are 2 variances. Well, the side yard setback relates to both C1 and C2. Pardon me. C1 being that it is an exceptionally narrow property. C2 being that it's setback variance. It's my professional opinion that the relief requested can be granted for the following reasons. Noting that C1 undue hardship is not in of itself sufficient cause for granting the variance, we will show you 5 points. The application relates to a specific property. The property is the one that's outlined in blue. That's filled in blue right here. It's a 50-foot wide property. The adjacent properties are all 80 and 100 and 112. So it is specific to the neighborhood, undersized. If it was just 80 feet wide, we wouldn't be here for the setback variances, let alone the 100 that's typical in that neighborhood. I show you some aerials, thanks to Google Aerial in 3D, where you can see the existing home within its surroundings, and then a plan view of the home, and again, how it relates to its neighbors. And it also shows you what buffers already exist in place to help buffer the addition. Number two, that the purpose of municipal land use will be advanced by deviation, that the variance can be granted without substantial detriment, that the benefits of deviation would substantially outweigh the detriment, and that the variance will not substantially impair the intent of the zone. Okay, number one. So those 5 things. Number one is that a specific piece of property, we've described that it's a 50-foot wide property, uncharacteristically narrower than the rest of them. The purposes of the municipal land use will be advanced in 3 ways: to guide the appropriate development in a manner that will promote the public health and welfare, to provide adequate light, air, and open space, and to promote a visual desirable environment. The addition is wholly designed within the limits, I really apologize for my voice, within the limits of the existing footprint. The addition is designed while maintaining the existing ridge height. It takes advantage of mature landscape, and the proposed addition, in my opinion, is modest while it meets the family's growing needs. It will promote increase in property values all around. It will allow for the needs of the growing family, potentially multi-generational aging in place, thus reducing the burdens on senior programs and society in general. It's my opinion that this variance can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good. Again, restating those physical features that we have proposed in our design. And that the benefits of deviation would substantially outweigh any detriment as they relate to the goals and objectives of your 2018 master plan re-exam. That this design proposal will promote the character of the township as a small suburb of the highest quality, that it will protect the character of this established residential neighborhood and its appropriate scale and density, and that the proposal is compatible with the prevailing neighborhood context. And again, I draw you to the images of the proposed design and its surrounding neighbors. Yes, sorry. I was going too
back
fast.
for 1 second.
Yes.
Why don't you, so you're seeking 2 side yard setback
Yes.
variances, 1 for each side. Why don't you explain, before you get to all of those proofs,
Yes.
why don't you explain to the board and the public where the homes are on the adjacent properties relative to your proposal in terms of, so the board can assess how the setback deviation relates to adjacent properties.
Okay. So the
So
2
you, so you
areas.
have your lot's in blue on A1.
Correct.
Okay, so why don't you describe what's going on to the left and the right?
So to the left side, lot 18 would be this home right here. In between this home and the applicant's home is a driveway and a large mature stand of evergreen trees right here. On the right side of the applicant's home is lot 20, and that's shown here in this aerial image. It's also newly improved and is separated by some driveway space, some fencing, and in addition, that home is set back a little bit further, so you can see what's happening with the applicant's home. The area of development is forward of anything that they could possibly look at.
So is the landscaping on either side?
There is mature
that-
landscaping
So
on-
what do you mean by mature? How high does it go up?
At least 30
Would
feet.
it go up to the second floor?
It goes beyond the second floor.
What's proposed?
Yes, on the left side, it goes beyond the second floor. On the right side, it's still new and growing, but they are trees that will get to that same height. Was that sufficient? And in terms of the setback on the property line, I can show you that on the left side, facing the applicant's home, there is it's a bungalow with a second floor. The addition is hatched as on your drawing. And it sits over the porch and it sits over the living room. And again, it just takes the ridge and pops it up and fills in all of that space within the footprint.
So can I ask before, back to the group, so just so I understand the project, so I understand you're moving the gable over, and then, so what's happening where looks like there's a porch? So that's being filled in, is that what I can't tell from this?
On the first floor, number 5, on the first floor, there's a porch now and a foyer and a living space in the kitchen. On the second floor, you go up these stairs. On the second floor, the outline of the second floor pretty much follows the porch line and just a little bit further in from the existing living room. So what we're doing is taking the second floor rooms and pushing them out and out in this fashion. Filling here, we're leaving this roof alone, we're leaving this bedroom alone, and we're increasing the space of this bedroom, increasing the space of this office, and increasing space in here to accommodate a full bathroom.
So again, I'm missing, what's
Yeah.
happening to the
The
porch?
porch remains,
The porch remains the same.
yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yes, there is no
That's the
change to
answer.
the porch.
Thank you.
What is the facade? Like, what are we looking at here?
They wanted, the applicant wanted to modernize it a little bit from the clapboard and shutter style. So what we're proposing is what you see very often today, hardy board cementitious panels in certain patterns. To more modernize it, we are installing casement windows instead of double hungs, removing mullions, black trim, introducing some differences in color in the facade. Not necessarily a red door, that was just something playful. I'm not sure what the applicant wants for the front door.
Not a red door, no. I love colors, but not that much.
I love it.
We were being playful.
So this takes the ceiling up, right, the roof up, and I guess.
Only the outside of the roof. The ridge will stay the same, so it will remain, this is the existing ridge right now, and this in the back is the existing roof. The front today looks exactly the same to here. What we're doing is taking the front up completely and the back this high as well.
So the highest point of the roof will not change.
Will not change.
Thank you.
Good question.
Yes,
This little bump out here is existing, correct?
it is an existing shed. Yes,
Thank you.
The driveway width to the detached garage in the rear is not being impacted.
that is correct.
Any other questions? Do we have any questions from the audience? Any comments from the audience? Board members, what do you think?
Yeah, this doesn't seem like a particularly material ask to me, and I think when I look at, it's a very narrow lot, when I look at the size of the house compared to the neighbors' houses, usually we're concerned about massing, and I actually think you need some mass. So I think this makes sense, and I think I would be supportive.
Clearly, there is hardship here, given the narrowness of the lot. And I think it's very elegantly done in terms of what the needs are of the owners. I could be supportive of this.
I'm going to echo what they said. I agree with everything you said. I think you've done a very clever job of updating what's a small house, a tiny house, but obviously I was past it. And I think you've done a brilliant job of modernizing it and meeting families' needs. I can be supportive.
I agree that
visiting it is, it's actually rather small compared to all the other homes in the neighborhood. I just want to say that it looks adorable the way it is now. That
Yeah.
means, I can see myself being really happy there. My kids are out, so that's.
Mine have started.
Exactly, that you're different stage in life. so,
Yeah.
I could be supportive as well.
Agreed.
Would someone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the application.
I can second.
Joseph Caulfield,
Yes.
Chandra Rajani,
Yes.
Gary Rosen,
Yes.
Regina Stewart,
Yes.
Priscilla Sabat,
Yes.
Joshua King,
Yes.
Jessica Black.
Yes.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
The response is yes, you can. They put these together.
Okay, next up, we have 1 Alexander Lane. The applicant is Dave Mosello. Hello. Okay, do you wanna all get sworn in, or whoever's speaking? Okay.
So, President, do you swear affirm testimony about to give tonight's hearing be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth? Names for the record.
Kylie, Kylie, Mogadam, Moghadam.
David Mogadam, Moghadam. Timothy Klesson. Klessc.
You gonna start?
Sure. Yeah, so Kylie and I moved into our home in 2021. We've been looking for a long time to find a town and neighborhood that really fit what we were looking for. We really love where we are. We have a young family. We have a 4-year-old and a 3-month-old. This is really where we want to be. And we love our location. We love our house. Functionally, there are some issues that we encountered, which is why we started looking into what our options were here. And also, we wanted to expand our family and our home. So that's really what kind of brought us to this point. And in talking to Mr. Klessc, we realized that there are a lot of things with our home when we compare it to what is traditional, such as we come in through the dining room, up a set of stairs that's kind of like this, with 2 kids and groceries and everything like that. That doesn't really, work, so well functionally long term. And it helped us, create this plan with him that creates a much better flow for our growing family in the area and makes it a much more, desirable house, for us in the time that we plan on being here, which is an extremely long time. And hopefully that's timeless in how we, create that.
Yeah, no, we hopefully are going to be here forever. I grew up in town. My parents still live in town, so we want to stay here. We love our home. We love the area, of course. And that's why we, talked with Tim to try to just kind of improve a little upon the house. We're in the home itself, so we're really, hoping that we can do some slight changes and see where it takes us.
So they hired me, yes. My name is Tim Klessc. I'm a licensed architect in New Jersey and New York, and been licensed for approximately 30 years. And my license is in good standing. I've appeared in front of this board on numerous occasions.
Qualifications have been accepted.
It's block 5001, lot 25. It's 1 Alexander. The original address of this house was 281 White Oak Ridge, and the clients want to flip it back to White Oak Ridge because it's a little confusing. That, you know, it's on the corner. It's been a little confusing when people come over that it's on Alexander, but the house actually faces White Oak Ridge. So part of what we're doing tonight is to kind of rotate the house a little bit and get it back to White Oak Ridge. Okay, and then we will change the address back to White Oak Ridge. I think it was changed about 20 years ago. I think that's accurate.
It was changed by the prior owner. I think prior, yeah, I don't know exactly what she did, but she did change it. It was 281 White Oak Ridge and she owned it, and then she changed it to 1 Alexander. I think because the garage is technically on Alexander's. She did do that.
So it's an R4. It's got a lot area, 21.5, 26. So it's actually a little over. You know, the R4 is required to be 20,000. I'd say it's a split that was built in the 50s. It looks to me like an early 50s split. We want to renovate this house, clean it up, and also add to it. That's what's going on. As part of it, trying to do a couple of things, and I'm going to go to my BOA 1 sheet, which is exactly the same as yours. And we're asking tonight to remove the driveway that's on Alexander and put in a circular driveway on White Oak Ridge. So I've just flipped over to my proposed site on the right side. And take the garage and make it a little bit wider because it's kind of like a car and a half now. So make it a 2-car garage and then come into it from White Oak Ridge. Then we also have some addition work going on there on the 2nd floor and a deck going on to the rear. That deck is a variance we're seeking tonight, and the garage doors facing the street is another variance we're seeking. And then when I did the average front setback, we conform on White Oak Ridge. Is what we have, what you're showing, yes. Is it difference in color? Because we have black and white, you have some green on there. I think it's got a little green on it, yeah, that's all the. Right, but it's
It looks like it's marked, yours is marked up, right?
No, I didn't mark it. Do you have all those little numbers on it, don't you? Or no? They're all little area numbers.
No, I don't-
They're just in black.
But I don't
see the red. Yeah, the red is little areas like.
Why don't we do this?
Okay.
Why don't we mark it as A1?
Okay.
And just describe, so in other words, this, what you're showing is your sheet BOA 1 dated January 17th, 2024,
Yes,
with some colored markings.
yes, and mine is in color and yours is in black and white, is I guess what happened here. And I think our printer just defaults to black and white.
Tim, you can try to get it past this.
I know, I'm trying. I just can't pull it off. And all those little numbers in there are really area calculations to pick up these areas. So anyway, that's all we're doing is putting in this driveway, coming into the front of the garage. Then we can come through a mud room and get into the kitchen. That's what the intent is, what we're trying to pull off tonight. So I'm going to move to my. Huh. There's got to be a workaround for it, yeah? I went now to my BOA 2 sheet, which is really the basement plan. Doesn't really even apply to us tonight. It's a new garage, and you can see the faint dotted line of the removal of the existing garage. And that is actually triggering a variance for us because we're adding about 3 feet in width to the garage as we get closer to Alexander. And in this case, it's a corner lot, Alexander's up front. And that's triggered the front yard setback requests that we're making tonight. It's to make the garage large enough to be workable. And then this is our new basement space really for our new mudroom, some other small interior alteration work below. And then I'm going to go to my BOA 3 sheet, which is really the first floor of the building. We come into the new garage. Remember, the old garage was coming off of Alexander
coming in this way. We come into our new garage, we can go through a mudroom, go through the sunroom, and get into the kitchen. That's really what we're trying to do here. And then we are renovating a little bit of this floor, just kind of interior alterations. But we're also adding the deck. And the deck has a side yard setback requirement of 15 feet. The deck attached to the house becomes part of the primary building. So we come through and you can see my property line on the angle here. And I'm not gonna do it. I want to mark on the drawing, but I'm stopping because it's gonna, I'd like to. I'm gonna call this A2 and just mark on it.
Oh, my goodness. The therapist would be thrilled.
So what I just wanted you to see is the request for that deviation for the deck is really that area. It's that triangular area.
I'm sorry, Tim, that's A2 is which sheet? BOA?
It's BOA 3.
BOA 3.
It's this triangular area. And I left out the stairs because I don't think the stairs count. But I mean, you could probably include the stairs into this too. And then the other thing that's going on, which I guess we don't show clearly here, is the side yard or the street side, the Alexander side, coming in. Oh, and I can see the deviation right there is at 3 foot 2 inches. That was to get the garage big enough to fit 2 cars. And that's kind of a little bit of a problem because the existing fireplace chimney is coming into the garage and sort of made what was already a small garage even a little smaller.
So Tim, that's a length issue, not a width issue, or?
It's a width issue, really. We made it longer, but it was really, I think a garage should be 24 by 24. That's just the thing I've sort of decided. So you could say 22 by 22, but it seems to me it should be 24 by 24. So when I projected in about 2 feet because of the existing chimney, that's why I made it, in this case, 26 feet. Because I really lost 2 feet of it here. And what it gave me inside was 22 foot 9 inches. I can see how my guys have indicated from the face of the chimney to the inside face of the wall. So it's led me to a variance on this side for about 3 feet. I'll show you exactly when we get
So
there.
just so I'm clear, so the one of the bays is impacted by the fireplace, you can't put a car in?
Yeah. The fireplace is really, it's like a sort of, we'd say in my business, a bad design. Maybe done in the 50s, but still, maybe the whole split level thing in general was a bad design. I don't know. But but a little bit of an awkward situation. Like they could have just moved the house over 3 feet, complied to the 40 foot, and made the garage actually work. But that's actually my deck area. And then I come up to the second floor, and you can see the sort of garage building mudroom. And then we've added over sort of the low side of the split so that we could pick up additional bedrooms, bathrooms, and a laundry. When I come to the outside, I'm on my BOA 5 sheet now. When I come to the outside, we left the existing porch which is there presently, right? The house is really, you come in, split down to the basement level, and split up to the bedroom level. Now we came up again to this new bedroom window, and then we did that thing where we tie the roof across and created sort of a bonus room up here. But we did that to kind of break the look of the split and try to make it look a little more homogeneous. And then we come over here, and that's our new garage, and you can see the chimney coming down actually into the garage. So we kept the character of the building, we just modified it. Then we come across the back, you can see the deck coming across the back on my BOA 6 sheet. And and our new bedroom area and sort of up half a flight to our new bonus area. I just wanted you to see one more thing that I wanted to pass on. This is my, yes, A3.
What is A3?
It's a photo board that I created of the existing building, and it also has a site plan that I added trees to and planting to give the board a sense of how we could minimize the impact of the garage doors from the street on White Oak Ridge. And I have,
So is what is on A3 depicting, I see some, I think some green
yes,
trees. Does the board have that?
I have this part to pass
Okay,
around as an
okay,
exhibit.
That would be, why don't we mark that as A4, because that doesn't have a photo.
It should be here, right?
So what's A4? A4 is just gonna be the survey with the trees proposed?
Yes, all I did was added trees to the survey. And I did it really to do a couple of things for my client. The first thing was I added trees in this back corner so I could create sort of a yard space for them. Because, you know, this is that corner lot problem where I don't really have a backyard. So I came around and I put in 12 skip laurels across the corner just to close it. The existing house on Alexander really has no windows on this side and a deck here. And that deck stops at approximately the same location as our deck is. So I added those. Every time I took a tree and I put kind of a line through it, so I did the slash line with the tree. That's an existing tree. And they're big. They're, you know, like, that's a caliber of 18 inches or 12 inches or 10 inches. All the stuff that I planted is lower things, you know, more screening trees. If you look at this site, like even driving down Alexander, you can see that there's a lot of overgrowth. Like, there's a lot of big trees, but they have no low planting on them, no low, you know, like they need to be underfilled with shrubbery.
So are the skip laurels that you've identified on A4, I see certain areas where you say that they are 6 feet. Does that mean 6 feet at the time of planting?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And there's other areas I see, particularly next to the garage, where you have 3 skip laurels, but it doesn't identify what the height at the time of planting.
I think they're all 6 footers.
They're all
Yeah,
6
it's my
feet.
fault.
That's right.
And I was just trying to create a little yard area in back here and add some planting. I mean, if you drove down here, it's a little like looks like it was planted about 40 years ago and everything's overgrown. I kind of like the skip laurels now because they actually grow slow. So they don't get like the green giants do, where they get almost overbearing a little bit. So I put them into here. I came and then I added planting in front, and I did this planting in front here really to shield the garage. Right? So I planted in the forecourt area in front of the driveway, you know, to minimize the impact of the driveway, but also to shield the garage itself from the view of the street. And the garage has like a carriage door. I mean, they're good doors, like it looks good. So I guess just so everybody knows, I went from Dorset up to Gero Park. And did you know, I mean, Dorset is on the right, a little below Alexander, which is on the left. And I found, well, I found 7 houses with garage doors facing the street. Okay. Plus the firehouse, but I think the firehouse is probably different, right? But the firehouse, all of a sudden I was driving by, I was like, wow, the firehouse is doing it too. So I don't think that it has like a negative impact on the street, is what I'm saying. I don't think it's out of character for the street to have it. And it solves a a big problem for this site, and I think we've mitigated it pretty well with the planting in the front. And so all I did was add planting so that I could minimize the impact of really the garage.
Can you just elaborate in terms of the garage? You know, some of this is self-evident, but why it needs to be front-facing? I mean, is there no other solution than
Well-
front-facing? And what does this mean in terms of how much concrete are you adding to the property
That's
versus
a
what you
good
currently have?
The site is, the site's 21,526. So it has, it's over the 20,000 required. It's kind of crazy. It has about over 1,000 square feet of still available FAR. And still available lot coverage. And that includes the pool and the pool patio into this. So it's not
You know
like
what
I'm
your
saying,
current driveway is in terms of square feet?
yeah, the current driveway is about 1,400 square feet.
What is the proposed?
The proposed driveway, the proposed driveway is about 2,200.
Is what?
2,200, 2,200. I went from 1,500 to, I added 700 square feet.
Can you identify on A4 where the existing driveway is?
Yes. You can see it, actually. It's right there. There. And then it's there. It's that area. It's very visible from Alexander right now, that whole paved situation.
I said A4, by the way, I meant A3, thank you.
Well, I thought you meant
No,
that
no,
this is A4 on A3. I was a little confused
It's a little
myself.
confusing, but I intended for it to say.
Oh, okay. But that's actually where that driveway is. And then our new driveway is supposed to come around and come in this way. And then I shielded it by the planting that I put in. It would just allow us to get the yard space and probably take the pavement off of Alexander, which I think actually is an improvement to Alexander itself.
Do you know how close the existing Alexander driveway is to the closest adjacent driveway?
This driveway? The driveway for this house is on the other side of the property. So I'm gonna guess 100 feet away.
Okay, so it's not like it's just next to it and you're removing.
No,
Driveway.
I'd say it's probably 100 feet, maybe 80 feet. Probably 100, actually.
And in your survey of garages that you did, how many properties have a circular driveway?
I don't know the answer to that. I could Google it and figure it out. But I think that there's probably, I know that the houses to the right, the two new ones, both have a circular drive, but the garage is not facing the street. But I know that they have, there's probably a concern that you'd like a circular drive on White Oak Ridge, because it's kind of a busy road, nobody wants to back out into it, So that case, the circular drive's probably, and this is a pretty wide lot, like it could absorb it, I think.
Tim, to follow on Mr. Rosen's comment.
Yeah.
What would happen if you put this garage in the back and then had a more discreet driveway to the back? Like if you move the sunroom to the front of the house?
I'd have to take the mudroom and the sunroom and move them.
Right, but they're not existing currently, are they?
They're new.
They're new, so it wouldn't be like you have to move them. It would just be if you
No,
move them
no,
on
no,
paper.
I mean, just on paper.
You have to move them on
Yeah.
paper, because that would take care of the front-facing garage. I mean, they're beautiful
Yes.
garage doors, but they are kind of big, and
Yeah.
it's right there on White Oak Ridge.
Well, it would, it would kind of have you enter the house sort of the wrong way, a little bit.
Would it?
Because,
I mean, if you flip it,
well, I just mean that, you could be coming
You flip it,
You
you still
sort of want to
in.
come into the rear side of a
You
building.
come in, I guess you'd have to maybe put a door on the side with steps or something.
You'd have to-
Previously saw.
But yeah, the driveway could,
Right, or you could come
it
in
could stay.
just through a
It could stay
doorway
where it
into the
is.
house.
We wanted to kind of get rid of it because it helps us to create some kind of yard space here also. So then, well, I mean, I guess you could minimize the impact of the driveway by coming in this way and just legging to turn around, you know?
Well, or your whole driveway would be. So
Well,
I mean, just
no, I
like
mean,
devil's
like you could
advocate.
eliminate that leg of the driveway. If if you want, if the concern was minimizing the kind of.
Right, but you wouldn't be entering on White Oak Ridge, then you'd be.
No,
entering
we'd still enter.
on-
No, I'm saying you could come in on White Oak Ridge this way
Or you could
and
just.
then
move
go
down,
this way and come
keep
in.
on Alexander. Keep the entryway on Alexander. and
I mean, I
enter-
guess you could probably go this way on Alexander too.
But anyway, just humor me with that, would it be theoretically possible to put the garage in the back of the house? And then you wouldn't have
Yes,
front
yes,
facing.
yes. It would definitely be
Can you
possible.
identify, just so, in terms of what Regina is asking you, where that would be on A3?
I would think that what you would do is you would put the garage here.
Yeah.
And then you would put the mudroom in front, because I can't do what I want to do, which
the
would be to go
sunroom.
garage, mudroom, and house, because I can't extend the length. So you'd have to go garage, mudroom, and then you'd come, it's a little awkward, because you come into the living room.
You're also putting the
At that point.
sunroom in the front too, right?
And I guess you put the
Sunroom in the front, which would be next to the living room.
Then you would come, it would be these two blocks, it would be the you're really talking about the mudroom and the sunroom.
Mhm. That's what it looks like to me too.
I mean,
Just a thought, I mean.
I only
Yeah.
say that because I remember a thing like this years ago with Joe Steinberg, and of course you can figure out another way to design it. I mean, it would be ridiculous to tell an architect you can't figure out how to design it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, but you can see, I guess, that if the garage was to be here, then these two blocks are gonna come forward. So I guess you'd enter through the living room, is what you.
Yeah, the fireplace there.
Yeah, there's
Right, you're
not
above
really
the
space
fireplace.
there. There's not really space to enter that way because of the fireplace.
And the other thing that we wanted to, the reason we were also thinking of this is because no one comes to our front door at, right at this point. Like, we never actually even use our front door because our driveway is on Alexander and nobody really parks on White Oak Ridge to come to the front. So we thought that doing something like this would also sort of kind of help that out, where, you know, we could utilize like the entire space of the house, and even for people who come like to deliver packages, the mail person, you know, all of that kind of stuff. We sort of were looking to kind of put a little bit of the flow that way as well with this, I think, when we were discussing it.
By doing all this and reorienting, are you then kind of creating a situation where the pool becomes located in your, I'll call it the effective side yard, right?
Either way, right, the pool is actually in a sort of a side
The pool
yard.
is over on the right.
Yeah, no, but I mean, in terms of the orientation, if you have the orientation of the house from Alexander to your point.
Like you're too
and
far
everyone's entering
away.
that way, the pool is sort of in the effective rear based on your entrance, as you just testified. But if everything's coming now through White Oak Ridge, you have a pool right here off on the side.
Yeah, it's a better layout for the owner. I guess the key would be to try to minimize its impact. I mean, I guess the paving isn't even really a variance, I guess, really. If you think about it, the lot coverage is, we're still under by 994 square feet of lot coverage. Like, we haven't, I guess it looks like a lot of paving, but I would shield that paving with planting is what I'm hoping to do here.
But more should, I'm assuming because maybe this is now, the forks of the driveway are narrower, but just, and if this is to scale, I mean, it does seem like you're just adding size of the prongs, but it does seem to me like you're just adding a lot of driveway to get the circular drive and the front-facing garage.
Yeah, well,
And I get that you may be permitted to do the circular drive.
right, yeah,
But you're asking for the front-facing garage, so.
right. It's really the garage. I think the way to minimize it would be to create almost a drive. Maybe it would be a,
Just look
I
at-
got just kind of draw it and send it to you.
So
You
on
know-
whether it's A3 or A4,
Yeah.
can you show, so you're asking for a front yard setback variance, right?
Yes.
Right,
On
so-
this side.
What?
That's
No,
on
no,
this
no, go back to the survey,
Okay.
back to the survey. So you've outlined for us, in terms of the triangle, where the deviation is for the deck, right? For the side yard setback
Mhm.
deviation. We know that the garage cannot be open to the public street, and that's what's being proposed. Just show us where the deviation is regarding the front yard setback on the survey.
I just want to see exactly how much it is. It's really not on the White Oak Ridge side, it's on the Alexander side, because this site really has two front yards. The average on Alexander is, the average that's
40 and a
required
half,
is 40.5.
right? Or 40.
And the request is to be 36.51. We're existing at 39.7. And I'm just looking at attachment E here, okay? Which in my book is page 12 inside there.
So it's the garage, it's the new garage that's causing the.
It's the
front
new
yard
garage. It's the new garage and that section of mudroom behind. And what's happening is we're a foot closer than the average, because now the average doesn't include our house. It's 3 up. So when I did the 3 up, it came to 40.5, even though we're existing at 39.7, and our request is to go to 36.51. So we're requesting to move in it's about 3 feet to move in from where we are, but the deviation is actually 3.99.
And the point, which I think is relevant to the consideration of this application, is that with regard to the front-facing portion of the garage to White Oak Ridge Road, that in and of itself is not also triggering a front yard setback deviation to White Oak Ridge, correct?
That's correct. The location of the garage is fine. As I started to do this other driveway that I was kind of talking about, which is almost like a driveway that could come in and then T so you can turn around, which is a little bit of a parking area sometimes. And Eileen doesn't like it because it kind of creates a parking area. But as I look at that, it's actually worse
It looks
because
better.
now you look straight up
Then the whole.
and you see
the
the,
whole circular drive.
right.
Wait, Mr. Rosen said something.
It looks better than the circular drive, right? So,
Well, it does, but you
if-
see the
if we think
garage.
this is a problem, then we shouldn't do it, but it feels to me like, I don't know, it feels like you're adding a lot of concrete to this property, which
Well,
is all.
It would be a variance that is triggered by a suggested amendment by the board, so the fact that they didn't notice for it would probably not be an issue.
Well,
Came around.
what would
Okay, I'm
be,
suggesting.
what would
Well,
be
we
the
should-
variance?
Front yard parking area, because it's a turnaround, it becomes just a
Like you come
spot
this
for
way.
the car. They're relatively.
What if-
Then you
you
can
know, this
drive
is-
in and,
You know, part of the struggle here, I think, is, to your point, Mr. Rosen, that the circular driveway isn't necessarily scaled, or is it? In other words, it looks like it's pretty wide, and the question is whether that can be significantly narrowed.
Yes.
Your numbers, Tim, seem, I can't remember, it was 1,400 and 2,200. That seems like the new driveway would be 50% more. When I look at this drawing, again, maybe it's because the fork is
Yeah.
very narrow, but it seems like a lot more
Well, the
concrete.
driveway is very wide at the horizontal part, the part that's horizontal. That part of the driveway could be much smaller. You know, could go through at 12
I
feet.
mean, maybe if you really tighten it up, because it's, I don't know, it just seems like too much to me.
Right.
Well,
Gave
I'd
them
rather
something
not
like
have
that?
a front-facing garage,
Yeah,
but I'm willing to
exactly.
stay.
Right, so also by narrowing that horseshoe, it provides additional opportunity for landscaping and pervious coverage and, you know, better for drainage, and so
That's exactly what I meant to say. Yeah.
it's good you wrote it down for me.
Was it the, I liked the horseshoe because I thought that it was giving me a place to plant in front of the driveway and minimizing the impact of the driveway. That's
If you have a
why,
regular driveway, I'm not sure you need planting. I mean, I just think maybe you want planting for a much larger driveway, like you're being proposed.
but you're right, in a normal situation, I guess you wouldn't have planted. But I was trying to minimize the impact of the garage doors also visually.
I think that would be nice.
The garage doors
They
look
do.
good. Yeah, I think the garage doors look good.
I have a problem with the circular garage taking up a large portion of the property.
But I
I
think
think
we don't
also
care
just
if we come
to the point of narrowing that circular driveway and putting in some more skip laurels, the fact that Mr. Plessy testified to the fact that they do not grow as fast as green giants. They may want more than less, so that, because in the event that you're able to immediately see over these 6-foot skip laurels, that there'll be additional screening before, as you're driving along White Oak Ridge, in relation to the front facing garage.
But that's gonna camouflage your house and you're not gonna be able to see house numbers. I feel like you put skip laurels along the front of a house. You're not gonna see the
I'm
house. It's gonna, could be, the fire department won't be able to find it. I mean,
And
I
that
don't
doesn't have to necessarily
love
be
skip laurels.
skip laurels, it could be other landscaping.
yeah, but I mean, it could camouflage the house if your point is to try and camouflage. I don't mind the circular driveway myself,
Yeah, I
as
don't-
much as I do the front facing garage. I mean,
Yeah, I think that in terms of the front facing garage, another consideration is that whether you use skip laurels or other types of landscaping, you don't necessarily have to prevent anyone from seeing the garage, but having a little bit of a screen without camouflaging the house,
Yeah.
maybe the right way to go.
You don't want the garage doors
I
facing
don't,
the street.
I think your garage doors are actually beautiful. And
Well,
it's so
thank
hard
you.
to find pretty garage doors. And those, you've done a really good job. But I feel like it's a big massing of garage doors in the front of the house. But I don't mind the circular driveway myself. It's the front facing garage doors. Wonder if you could put a driveway on the side on Alexander and leave the semicircular drive. I can appreciate that your delivery people are confused. And I was a little confused by that as myself when I was trying to find the house. It's like, what? Oh, it's this one. I don't know, just food for thought.
Tim, could you
Yeah.
turn to BOA3 and just talk about the side yard encroachment of 9 feet when 15 is required? It's the deck.
Yeah, that's that's where the property line is kind of skewed, coming on an angle here, and this area of the deck is actually in violation for the setback. I think it has very little impact on the adjacent house, because the adjacent house is about where my hand is. And there's actually they have a deck and a fence back here. It's not even really in play with them. But that is our request tonight, that triangular piece of deck.
Any thoughts of configuring that so you're minimizing that at some point?
We wanted to make a deck that was actually big enough to be able to be on. I mean, the deck could be, the deck could be shaped. like that.
I mean, it's just,
But it's a little bit awkward. You know.
it's a half an acre, but I mean, the way the building's configured, it sits in the back left corner.
The building is like pushed up too close to Alexander and into that back corner. It's a big site, and it reads like a big site because the corner lots actually read really big because they show so much street, you know, but it's, you know, but we want to live in this area, really.
Any
Right? And I
input
think,
from
I think it
anyone?
has no impact at all. No,
Any input?
nothing from the neighbor.
How far, you said that the driveway of the neighbor is on the other side of the property.
Yes.
How far is that triangular area? How close is it to the property line,
The
neighbor's
The neighbor's off about 15 feet.
from the line?
Yeah, and they're faced like, remember, Alexander is this way, and they're faced parallel to Alexander, so they're stepping away as we go. Their house is here, and then they have a deck behind it, all really ending before our deck ends. It's all, they're all forward of it. They're right in
decks
this
facing
area.
each other. Is it like two decks?
One deck is right this way, vertical. Yeah, perpendicular, I guess would be exactly the same. It, you know, probably goes out about 15 feet. Looks to me like it's about 25 feet long.
Is that also at the side of the property or is that at the back of their property?
It's really their backyard. Because I'm coming, Alexander's running up. The house is facing now Alexander. It's a mid-lot. And the lot has a little bit of a parallelogram kind of look to it. But the building is parallel to Alexander. So we're getting away from, our deck is, or they're going away from us, even though we're getting squeezed. They're getting a little bit expanded, actually. You can probably see it on the tax map in the packet. I don't. Yeah. I could come back with this if you wanted more information related to the site.
So I could just, it's more of a comment. So you have some outdoor space, you have a pool, you have this area, you have this area, you have this fairly beautiful deck. So just saying, trying to weigh the pros and cons of moving the garage to the back, because I know you said you wanted to preserve this area, but you do have some other
We have
useful
area
areas
up here, yeah.
for
You know, this
outdoor
is really the
recreation.
living space.
So, I don't know, just, again, food for thought, I could, you know, I'm not saying I'm solid in this, but I would feel better if the driveway, those garage doors, because if we approve the garage in the front, 20 years from now, somebody changes those to ugly garage doors,
Mhm.
not the beautiful ones you've got, you're still like gonna be stuck with it
Yeah.
facing White Oak Ridge.
It's a little bit like we want these spaces to the rear of the building. That's the problem here. Do you want me to take it back and?
I was gonna, just say, is there anyone from the audience here who'd like to ask questions?
Just had one more.
Oh,
So
yeah.
what's the width of this horseshoe at the center?
Well, the
if you
horseshoe
want-
at the center is wide because we made it so you could pass a car, but it could be much smaller. It could be 12 feet. And I think you want it to be 12 feet. Like we could stipulate it at 12 feet.
What are they typically?
12 feet is pretty good, I'd
12
say.
feet
Yeah.
is typical, and this one is,
Well, we got really wide there. You know, we got up to almost 18 feet wide, so you could pass a car.
And is it 12 feet at the two ends of the horseshoe?
Yes, yes, yeah.
That would clearly be better.
I mean, we could tighten that
Our two neighbors also, I mean, I don't know if it makes a difference, with the two neighbors, well, the one right next to us and the
to
one.
the right.
Exactly, they have, I don't even know what kind of driveways they are, but it's basically the entire front of their yards are basically paved. So they can park cars and they can, you know, put their cars in there. So it's kind of similar-ish to at least those two homes.
They're newer houses to the right.
To that point, it's like if you combine our other driveway and the circular one together.
Right,
It is a
kind of like that,
lot of
exactly.
coverage of driveway.
Right.
It actually is much larger than even the largest version of this drawing. Can I add one more thing about why I believe it's very important for us to move our driveway? I mean, would think that most of us here have children. White Oak Ridge is not it's a fairly busy road. So if we can create more space on the corner of Alexander that is shielded for our kids to be able to play, I would feel a lot better every day than having that space in the front that it doesn't really get utilized so much. So just another thought.
But I mean, we could agree to just hold the driveway at 12 feet.
Hold on, let me just go back to I don't think we have anyone, from the audience here, but let me just ask, anyone who'd like to make a comment on this application from the audience? Okay. Why don't we give our comments and then maybe we can go from there? I don't know if we're all on the same page with this, so, okay. Does someone want to start?
Well, I mean,
So the public portion is now closed, and now you're up to board deliberation. Mr. Kless, you're comfortable with that?
Yes.
Yeah, somewhat to reiterate what I've said, I mean, I don't love, I understand the reasons for it, but I don't love the front facing garage and all the concrete in front. I would be more comfortable with it if, you did stipulate that you would limit the width of the driveway to 12 feet. So, I would prefer it wasn't this way, but I could be okay with it.
Who else would like to? Someone?
You go ahead, because I've already talked.
Yeah, I just think that if this is narrowed, and I'd like to see the numbers in terms of how that horseshoe would be compared to what you have at 1,500 square feet versus what you have in the new one. Personally, I think horseshoe looks fine to me if it is narrower. You could also consider, instead of having a horseshoe, and just, my thoughts here, if you had that side which is closer to the garage, broaden it a little bit and take that out and keep that as a bay, go it through certain distance rather than having a horseshoe. Just, another thought for how this could be, configured. But again, I look to, other thoughts.
I'll say something. I think you have a bit of a hardship on White Oak Ridge. I too live on a busy street, and I have a horseshoe driveway, about a semicircular driveway. I'm very grateful to the people who put it in. It wasn't me. So I actually don't mind the semicircular driveway, and I agree with you that you need a driveway that you can enter and exit more safely on White Oak Ridge rather than backing out. I feel like that you're gonna have a lot of trouble backing out onto White Oak Ridge. So I'm actually mostly concerned with the garage that's front facing. I don't love the way it looks, but I think you're also gonna have trouble backing out. You're gonna need to go into that semicircular turnaround. That creates a lot. So I would be more likely to approve it if you move that front facing garage just to possibly the side, which I know may take away this small triangle of grass, but you do have plenty of other grass. You could, dare I say, you could always take out the pool if you were looking for a way, but I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just saying you could if you were really worried about a safe place for your children to play.
I'll say I'm not a big fan of, front-facing garages. I think that on White Oak Ridge, it's a really busy road, and there are other houses. When I first drove by the house, when I first took a look at the application, I thought, before I really read through, that the front-facing garage was going on Alexander, and I drove up and down the street, and there are no front-facing garages there. Once I realized that it was on White Oak Ridge, I took another drive both directions down White Oak Ridge, and there are definitely other homes that have it. The thing is, White Oak Ridge is like a busy road. You're not even going, even if you're going at the speed limit and not speeding, you're still going quite fast, where it's not even as noticeable when a garage is, a front-facing garage. I think if the garage is going to be front-facing, I think you need this kind of driveway for safety reasons. We had the other application just before this that was on White Oak Ridge, and I pulled in to take a look at that house, and trying to get out during a busy time of day, it's dangerous. So, I mean, again, if we're gonna be granting variance for the forward-facing garage doors, I think you need this. And I think you can landscape nicely around it, so, it doesn't bother me. I don't, again, I don't have a huge problem with this particular case with it. I think it's, I think the property can handle it. So I'm not as bothered by it as some of the fellow board members. Does anyone else want to weigh in just so we can give the applicant, our full thoughts and maybe go from there?
I'll jump in. I agree with you, Jessica, as far as the front-facing garages on White Oak. There are several. I think 301 actually has it angled a little bit. They actually had a crescent driveway at one point. They closed it off. Just if that means anything to you. They closed off one section so it goes in and out at the same side. Of any places, you're right, on Alexander, that whole neighborhood, nobody has a front-facing garage at all. So when I got the application, I did the same thing, and they opened up closely and did the same thing. If any place was gonna have a front-facing, White Oak does not, I can see that. It's a busy street, and as the other properties along that going towards Giro Park, they've totally decorated, infilled with greenery and so on. You can't even see the homes. I do have an issue with the side yard setback in the back. I just think that, I know no one's talking about it. At some point, it may come into play for the people that are behind you, that they want to come here and do something with it as well. But that's about it for me.
Okay, I'm okay with the driveway as is, front facing. I agree with Jessica that when you're driving down White Oak Bridge, you don't notice it because you're going so fast. Not that I'm going that fast, but I'm okay with it.
We didn't, we have been giving a lot of attention to the front-facing garage. I think you're the only one who's commented on, the back, and the, side yard setback for the patio. Does anyone else have comments about that?
I do agree with Joe's that the deck is too close to the property. I just checked the Google Map. It looks like the neighbor is very close as well, even though I don't know the number. But if I look in the Google Map, it looks like they can wave to each other. Like that's the only concern.
Okay,
So, Mr. Klesse, you've heard some comments.
I think we should study it a little more and come back, if that's okay.
Okay.
Sorry. We'll do it.
It's so hot here.
Yeah.
Do you have another date, Eileen?
She's,
The 20th,
I don't think I'm here.
June 3rd.
June 3rd?
Maybe I can just do it this way.
Perfect. Eileen? What did you say, May 20?
June 3rd.
Yeah, no, I can't do May 20. June 3rd. Okay. Thank you.
So this application will be carried to the meeting of the board on June 3rd, 2024, 7 o'clock at this room. No further notice will be provided by the applicant.
We're gonna take a 5-minute break.
from our trust.
Just raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm testimony about to give tonight proceeding to be the truth, whole truth, and but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Your name for the record.
My name is Neha, Neha Kubani, Kubani.
Amr Kubani. AMAR, last name KHUBANI.
Timothy Klesse, KLESSE. I'm gonna let Mr. Kubani start, because I can't take it anymore. Just kidding.
Hi, how are you? First for the trust, Amr Trust Investments, I'm the sole owner of that trust. We just put the house in a LLC for protection purposes. So we moved to town, me and my family, we live in the house. We moved to town in 2020 with our two very young kids. They're now 7 and 3. That's my wife, Neha. So really love the town, love the schools. We made a lot of friends here. We plan to stay here for a very long time, and have been making improvements to the house along the way. And what we want to do now, so during the summer months, we spent a lot of time outside in the backyard on the patio. There was an existing patio when we bought the house, and so what we wanted to do actually when we moved in is cover that patio to create shade. And we also found that we can add fans and we can add some heat, so we can make it into like a 9-month kind of living, right? Fall and spring also greatly improve our experience of the house. So that's what we'd like to do. Any questions? Thank you.
Anybody gonna say welcome back? No. Do you want me to qualify? Yes, okay. I'm Tim Klesse, licensed architect in New Jersey and New York, and been licensed for approximately 30 years and appeared before this board on numerous occasions. It's 346 Hartshorn. It's the idea here is to take an existing patio and to put a pergola structure with operable louvers over the patio. I have my A1 sheet, which is exactly the same as your A1 sheet, and the photo A that I use there is just to give you a sense of what we're talking about. It's a louvered patio system, or a louvered pergola system that goes over the patio. And in our case, if I go to my survey, our patio is really existing at 12 feet off of the property line and would be required to be 15 feet. It also makes it fail on, we also fail on site combined. So we fail on site combined by 2.8 feet. So it's basically the same as the other 3 feet. And again, I have a lot line that's on a little bit of an angle, so it's not the entire pergola that we're requesting the deviation for. It's really a triangular piece that's 3 feet at the worst condition and then tapers down to nothing. It would allow us to put this pergola system over the existing patio. We folded the idea of pushing the pergola in a little bit so that it wouldn't be a violation, but it just looks so awkward on the actual site that it seemed to us to make more sense to come here tonight. I went and really looked at the site, and if you look at my existing photo C down in the lower left-hand corner, this is really from the street, and you can see that this, I'm going to say, is not visible from the road. It's uphill, there's a lot of shrubbery, we're proposing to plant additional shrubbery, and it's really very minor from the road. The second photo D.
So why don't you show us on this point on existing photo C where the pergola would be?
The pergola is behind the building. I don't know, it's maybe off, the way the angle is, it would be visually here look to be about 5 feet to the left off of the building. If you could follow the plane of the building, you would see that the pergola itself is just
Wait,
extended the plane.
Let's be clear about something. So
Yeah.
existing photo C, which is on your sheet A1,
Yep,
shows two buildings, one that is concealed by a by a tree and one that is not, right?
yes,
Follow me?
yes.
The subject property is which house?
The one on the right,
One on the right that's concealed by the tree, right?
yes,
So the pergola is gonna go, what, behind the left side of the structure,
yes.
right? So you can't see it from Horse Shore, correct? Correct?
It would be, I'd say, extremely difficult to see it.
And then existing photo D, what are we looking at there? We're looking, the subject property is the structure on the right?
Like when you see that little white
Yeah.
that's there, that's actually the owner's fence, right? That's your fence. And that fence is right there at the end of the building? Is that where that fence? That fence is literally at the end of the building where you see that fence coming from the corner of the building to the property line. That's a 6-foot fence, that white piece right there. I have probably a better photo if you'd like me to pass it around, like the original of the photos.
So would you be able to see the pergola at all with that fence from the street or not?
Well, you're looking uphill. That's why I don't think you'd ever be able to see it over the 6-foot fence. But that is the same as photo C.
Are you handing out something that is not?
Yes, I'm handing out the original of photo C before it went through our plotter.
Okay, so we're gonna mark that as A1, additional photo C,
Okay,
yeah?
yes.
Got that.
Who's got it? Okay, would you give it an A1? Then I'm
I'm
gonna,
calling it additional photo C.
additional photo C.
A1 with today's date.
And now I'd like to,
Can you just identify what this is that we're looking at?
it is exactly the same as existing photo C that's on your board or on your sheet, except I think the photo is a little better quality. That's the only reason why I wanted you to see it.
Is this the applicant's driveway? No, right?
No,
It's the neighbors.
neighbors.
Yeah, oh,
That's
look,
right.
Yeah.
it's a semicircle.
It's a little bit like the lot line is on a little bit of an angle. That driveway is approximately here going up to the neighbor's property. I have a better image of photo D also, if you would like to see it. That is probably about the rear corner.
This is in the past, this is, yeah, this is past, so this is where it is.
Probably that, get into that.
Yeah.
There that.
That's on the existing.
I'd like to just send this one around. Do you want to see it or no?
It's your case.
I'll send it around.
Okay.
That's,
So your mark.
that's photo
A2.
D. Yes, I called it A2. It's photo D. And you can see the umbrella in there, in that picture. And that umbrella is very close to the point of the edge of the covered pergola that we're talking about tonight. Okay, that's why I wanted you to see it. And then the final image is photo E, where you can see how the two buildings are kind of coming together. And you can see our patio in the rear, and I think this one is relatively clear. And that's the patio that we're seeking permission to put the pergola over tonight, right? It's literally right behind this corner, that left corner of the building.
What are the dimensions of the pergola?
And I'd say it's about 20 by 20. You can also, I think you can see that white fence in that last picture in that photo E also to get an idea where the fence is. So our intent is to
So
put
the
up
fence-
this,
Fence is right behind the 5 air conditioning units?
yes, yes. Off that corner of the building, off that rear corner. Our intent is to install this pergola and not to wall it, right? It wouldn't be walled. It would be open, so remain as is with a louvered ceiling and give us the ability to use the patio for, let's say, 4 or 5 more months throughout the year. That's all we're asking for. We're willing to stipulate that we wouldn't enclose the patio, the pergola or anything else to it.
What's,
Right.
What's the height? You said
10 feet,
10 feet.
10 feet high.
It's just about that. It's in line with the ceiling of the rooms. So like when you come out, it's on the same plane.
So the pergola, the proposed pergola, how far would it be from the fence? Like, I guess, does it go all the way to the corner there, or would it?
It hits the tangent of the building and the fence is where it starts. And comes out perpendicular to the building. If I'm,
It doesn't go beyond the building, Tim, right? That side?
no, it's
So
going,
it's in line with,
it's in line with the
that-
building.
the lateral side.
If I'm, you can just take a look at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I went to the site today, so.
Okay, this is the building is ending right there. Let's say the building is about 35 feet deep.
So it's gonna be pretty close to the fence, I mean, I know it's perpendicular, but it'll be fairly to.
Yes, at the worst condition, it's 12 feet off the property line, required to be 15 feet. The deviation request is for 3 feet.
So the fence is 6 feet tall and the proposed pergola will be 10 feet tall. So
10
there
feet.
could potentially be 4 feet.
Higher. Yeah, but you're looking, from
visible.
the street, you're looking up at it.
And I saw some lights today when I went there. There's patio lights, looks like in the back. I could see those.
String lights,
There's like patio lights on the back, on that back patio existing.
the string lights that we've.
String lights. I
put-
mean, I
put
can
up
see
there.
them from Hartshorn, so.
Or we can take them down. That
Well,
was
no,
just.
they don't bother me. I'm just saying that I could probably see the pergola from Hartshorn.
You could probably see, if you were
If I
really
could see
looking
the-
for this.
the
It's pretty
lights.
far away, but if you were really looking.
I was walking my dog, so actually, I don't see that.
And based on existing photo E, it looks like there is some landscaping on the neighbor's property that would be separating the pergola from their patio area. Is that accurate?
Yes, they have a lot of landscaping, and we're also proposing to add additional landscaping in front to supplement
When you
this.
say landscaping, you're talking about in front of the air conditioning units?
In front, yes, in front of the air conditioning.
And you're putting landscaping on the neighbor's property too? to screen
No,
that?
no.
What are those circles there, Tim?
They're the existing, those
Oh,
are the existing planting of the neighbors, which is pretty dense. And then we came back and added some additional planting in it, forward of it, and also underneath the neighbor's planting.
Is it an operational gate there?
Yes, it's a gate there,
It
right?
is,
Yeah.
there is a gate, but we usually use the one by the
Oh,
driveway.
okay, because if you put landscaping in front of it, you'll lose the function of the gate, right?
No,
the
there's enough
landscaping-
space where you could still use it.
If the landscaping is forward in front of the units, you can still access the gate because the gate's set back.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure what all those, I guess they're squares or circles or
Yeah.
circle squares.
And we had
The squares are the
also,
AC units.
last year, we had also planted between
Oh.
our and our neighbor's property on the side to create even more plantings between the two properties. We put arborvitae's in there. So those will grow tall.
And measures
Yeah,
gate
I'm
losses.
going to also remind the board that this applicant came before us, or this property, the applicant itself came before us approximately a year ago and received variance relief from this board to permit the location of the air conditioning units on the left side of the house as proposed. So the board has already reviewed, in essence, that left side of the property in terms of setbacks, impacts of the neighbors, etc.
Have you discussed this with your neighbor?
Yeah.
The pergola? No, we discussed the AC units with him last year. And he actually came and testified on the board that we're really good friends. So he came and testified and said he had no problem with us putting it there. I haven't talked about this with him, but I'm sure he wouldn't have a problem.
And you're proposing that screening, these units aren't screened?
Yes, I know, that's why I screened them, because they were never screened from last time, I guess.
Okay, so
I wasn't here before.
So the landscaping and the screening as proposed on your A1 is what is going to be installed?
Yes, yes, everything that is darkened in is new planting. The open circles are existing planting. But yes, all of it would be installed.
Right. And with regard to the air conditioning units, the board based their approval of that on a C1 analysis. I'm assuming that you're proposing that the same analysis holds true for relief related to the perk.
Yes.
Do you want to go more into detail about that for the board?
But I think that it's not really visible from the street. It's also, we're adding the planting to even enhance the division between the two properties. And the lot itself has an angled side, which is really making this more restrictive. And if the patio was in a different place, we would be asking to put the louvered pergola in a different location also.
And it's not, and you're not enclosing the walls.
No, we agreed not to enclose the walls. So I think it's a existing site-created hardship, I'd say.
Here we have a chance that 3 feet variance. How close is that to the neighbor's property, deck, whatever that may be, on the other side of the property?
He has a hot tub right by his fence.
It's about 12, it's 12 feet from the property line.
We are 12, and the hot tub is probably 12. Supposed to be.
That's further in. So
Oh, he's better than 12, yeah.
maybe 20,
he's-
maybe
yeah.
25 feet.
He's pretty
20.
far off to the hot tub.
There's no portion of the building or windows or anything of the property up in there.
No.
No, this is, both of these buildings really align, and these accessory uses are behind both of the buildings. This is, the biggest impact would be probably the hot tub, which looks to be our 12 feet and then 20 more feet. So I'm gonna say it's a pretty good distance.
Are there any questions from the audience for this application? Any comments from the audience? Okay. Close the public portion and what do you have to say about this?
I'll go first, and so I walked by it today, beautiful home, by the way. I think you can see it a little bit, but with the plantings, I think you'll take care of that issue of not being able to see any of this from Hartshorn Drive. I think if you put those plantings, I'm comfortable with approving this. It's a pretty modest ask, and I can see why you would like to shade that patio. Thank you.
So it certainly looks beautiful, very artistic, and will be certainly enhance your, style of living. I would think that hearing none from the neighbors and hearing that there is, as per your testimony, that there is enough gap between that variance portion to the neighbors, whatever structure is there, there is enough gap. I think it's fine. I would be supportive of the application.
Anyone else? If we're making a motion, would someone like to also stipulate that the plantings are in there?
Do we need to do that if it's expressed in the
Yeah, I mean,
proposal?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that the plantings are identified, that's why I asked about this on the site plan.
Okay.
I don't think we need to, because it's proposed, 6 skip rows. If somebody wants something different, we should probably let the applicant know.
Do we need to, put in a new stipulation that it can't be enclosed, or they would need to? I mean, they would need to get
They would have to come back.
come back for that.
Yes.
Okay.
So would they have to come back for?
Close it.
closing.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of.
Because then it would actually be a building by
Right,
definition.
right,
so.
right.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
Motion to approve the application for calendar number 3975-24.
Second.
Joseph Campbell,
Yes.
Shazia Rajani.
Yes.
Gary Oldman.
Yes.
Virginia Fuller.
Yes.
Priscilla Simmons.
Yes.
Joanne Hyde.
Yes.
Jessica Clark.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, last, we have calendar 3968-24. This matter was carried from 4/1/24. The property location is 249 Main Street. And the applicant is 249 MS Partners.
You guys.
But then it's still-
Yeah.
Rich wants to vote.
Yeah, you swear from testimony about to give in tonight's hearing, be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Your names to the record, spelling your names.
Sure. Alap, AALAP, Merchant, MERCHANT.
Nikita Goradia, Nikita Goradia.
Richard Keller, Keller.
Hi, I'm Evan Drachman, attorney for the applicant. Thank you all for sticking around tonight. We have a application here that on paper has a bunch of variances included, but really what we're looking for is 2 variances. The reason I say that, all of the other variances are pre-existing, but also approved previously by the board. So these are variances that have been discussed in past hearings, have been approved. What we're really looking to change here is 1 parking space and the use of the property from an optometrist office to a dental office. Everything else on the property is staying the same. So I will start by my first witness, Mr. Keller. I was going to go have you first.
We're gonna do planning too, or just?
Yeah.
Just,
I'm going to have you walk through the application.
okay, great.
So, Mr. Keller, if you could introduce yourself.
Good evening. Richard Keller for the applicant. I'm a licensed professional engineer and planner in the state of New Jersey, licensed for 35 years as both. I've appeared before this board, approximately 110 boards throughout the state of New Jersey. I have a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering with a concentration in water resources and environmental engineering. And I also hold, and that is from Rutgers University. I also hold a Master's in Architecture with a concentration in urban planning and design. And that is from New Jersey Institute of Technology, where I also taught for about 11 years. I just got my brand new license, having completed another 24 hours credit. So my license is in good stead, and it's always nice to be back before the board. Before we even start.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Jackman mentioned that there are prior variances that have been, or maybe it's pre-existing non-conforming conditions, that were approved by the board. Is there a resolution regarding that? Like in which board approved it, and when?
Yes, they were submitted with the application.
H and I. Okay, it's in the application, right?
What?
No, yeah.
Take a look down. I look at it.
Now, these are notices, I'm talking about actual variants, like resolutions approved.
Well, apparently your copies didn't have them.
Oh, yeah, they were submitted with 1 copy. I guess maybe just 1 copy. I don't know.
Only 1 copy.
Copy. Yeah.
The Dr. McGlone, who got approval in 2008, I was also the engineer and planner for that application as well. I think I was also the planner and engineer for the previous applicant before that, which was the printing shop.
Okay, so just, again, we're just trying to make a record here so that this JBQ printing from December 16, 2002, is that the prior approval that we're referring to?
There's one more recent, 2008 was Dr. Vincent McGlone, trading as New Jersey Contact Lenses, June 2nd of 2008.
Or
There's a few in there, yes.
2000, now we're going backwards. Okay. Dr. Vincent, so what had been submitted to the board are various resolutions from the Board of Adjustment, most recently dated June 2nd, 2008, where the applicant was Dr. Vincent McGlone, trading as New Jersey Contact Lenses. Those are the prior approvals.
Correct, yes.
Eileen, can I hold on to these, or can you make me copies? You gave me the eye. Make me copies. All right, let the record reflect.
Oh, you wanna hold them for now?
Sure, I mean, it's gonna be.
I know where you live.
You know where I live, okay. I will return them at the end of the session. Thank you. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Certainly. So let me just. The property in question is 249 Main Street. It is block 1001 lot 18. It is located about 66 feet on the west side of Main Street in the Washington district. It is located about 66 feet north of Ocean Street and about 225 feet south of the intersection of Willow, the far diagonal corner being where ShopRite is. The other B3 building being the Colombo Service Station. Since I reference everything by food, it's about 370 feet north of Mia Familia. So it's either ShopRite or Mia Familia every day I walk. My office is right across the street. I actually was one of my family who owns 3 buildings there. We were noticed because we're within a couple hundred feet. So we obviously are not here to object. We're here for the applicant because we think it's good for the neighborhood. To go through the details, the site is approximately 88 feet wide by just under 100 feet deep, located again on the west side of Main Street, close proximity to where Main Street goes over Route 78. The property contains 7,671 square feet. I will point out that among the salient features in the neighborhood, the Main Street corridor is a mixture of uses. On the drawing, you can see we've color-coded the different zones. The corridor along the west side being in an R8 zone, which promotes and advances multifamily housing on that side, although it is littered with a lot of older commercial uses. Across the street, the green area being where my building is located, that being the CMO zone where light industrial as well as commercial medical offices are permitted. And the area further into the Washington district behind the properties that line Main Street is actually the R7 zone, which is primarily 1 and 2 family zones. The red line on the drawing here delineates everything to the right of that is actually what was formerly considered the floodplain of the west branch of the Rahway River, along with the confluence where it joins Van Winkle Brook coming from Springfield, that area being the primary flood zone. As of last June, the state of New Jersey raised the flood elevation by 3 feet on FEMA maps or 2 feet on studies. Either way, they raised it significantly. So that line now has migrated from being just off the site and essentially goes up to the intersection of Mechanic and just where Mia Familia is. So this area was not previously under DP jurisdiction, but as of June of last year it is. So that certainly controls and dictates the amount of permissible uses that can go into that area. The development, of course, is then regulated by the New Jersey DP Flood Hazard Control Act rules. And basically, those restrictions say that no new multifamily housing can go into that area, multifamily being 3 units or more. You can't create any additional commercial or residential habitable space on the first floor. No fill can be placed in the property. If you do any kind of expansion, there's no basement. And there's also the substantial improvement clause, which says if you invest more than 50% of the value of the structure in a new structure, you trigger enhanced regulations. And again, you kind of lose that, you lose the basement and you lose a lot of the first floor. So essentially, it's made development for the permitted uses pretty much non-viable, because if we look at the permitted uses in the R8 zone, single-family dwellings, there are some older single-family dwellings that are very small, but there's really no market for single-family dwellings on Main Street. Two-family dwellings, the geometry of this lot, we looked at doing two families. Again, you can't increase the footprint. It would require two driveways, and the geometry means you'd have to back up onto Main Street. And you can't really avoid the substantial improvement criteria. And then again, apartments and attached dwellings are strictly prohibited because you have to have dry access for emergency vehicles. So the dry access ends pretty much at Main and Bleecker, about 400 feet to the south. So for the permitted uses, none of the permitted uses in that zone are really viable any longer. So what we're looking to do in that zone is essentially make the best use of the buildings that we have at this point. Just to, because I may use it when I get there, I already pre-labeled them. Exhibit A1, annotated aerial photo, 249 Main Street, Milburn, dated April 15th, 2024. This is a near map satellite image. The image is from March 3rd, 2024. And essentially what I've done is I've shown the property. You can see there's the Colombo service station. On the corner, this actually was a deli with no parking there now. They've now got a use variance to put residential on the first floor. There's a 12-unit condo immediately to our right. Actually, when I was doing the demo personally on our building back in 1977, there was actually a nice little bar there that had great hamburgers. Actually missed that, but that was raised to make room for the 12-unit condo. The building, the subject property located in the center, the front half of the building was actually at one point was used for the item. It was their offices, and there is some rumor that was some printing went on in the back, but it doesn't seem big enough to have been printing the whole runs, but there were printing presses in the back. And there was one of the oldest houses in town sat on the lot next to it. That woman sold off this property to Luigi Santagata, who built the 4-family. That building, when the next user was Model Prototypes, they built prototype models for entrepreneurs before we had 3D printing. They actually sought to take that building down. HPC came to look at it, and they decided that we needed to take it down before it fell down. Even though it was 200 years old, it was held together with horsehair and newspaper pretty much. No floor, linoleum on dirt. That went away, and the Model Prototypes built an 8-car parking lot next to it with site plan approval. The rest of the block is a mixture of 2-family, 4-family, commercial office, 2-family, 1-family, 2-family, 1-family, and then you work into the nursery school at the end. And there's commercial uses that pick up on the next block, a hair salon, the familia, et cetera. So it is a diverse neighborhood. And you'll see that one of the reasons I decided to show this is that one of the existing non-conforming conditions is a buffer condition, and I'm not sure who needs to be buffered from who, because a lot of these old buildings in the Washington district are owned by contractors. So you can see right behind us, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 contractor vehicles parked right behind us. I think we need screening from them, not the other way around. Again, photo board number 2, this is labeled A2, dated today, 4/15/2024. There are 6 photos that represent, they were all taken today by myself. They represent the site as it exists today. The property in question looking slightly northwest from across the street, pretty much in front of our building. You can see it's a 2-story building. So there's a 1-bedroom apartment on the 2nd floor, and then there's the primary space that there's 3 steps or 4 steps up into the back space. Again, here's the front recently, because the old awnings were in such bad shape from Dr. McGlone. To market the building, Bruce Conacky, the current owner, did put up a brand new awning. We are going to, any proposed signage will be restricted to that. The only change we're making to the site, and I'll get to the site plan in a second, is there is a lit sign box on the southerly facade that is coming down. So that'll be removed, and the only other change is there'll be a new awning that will be put up with the doctor's information, basically in that same band, not on the sloping part, but just on the vertical band. It'll be the firm name and the doctor's name and the address. The signage that's proposed would be less than previously approved by Dr. McGlone, so we do not need a variance for that, even though Dr. McGlone needed a variance for it. We're coming in less than that, so we're grandfathered. Looking at it slightly from the southwest, you can see there's the parking for the 12-unit condo. Most of the people who looked to buy this, who weren't commercial and wasn't my applicant, all wanted to tear that down and do 4, 5, 6 units of housing. There was no way, or even add a floor onto it. There was no way you could do it without negatively impacting the neighbor's airline and open space, without multiple setback deviations for side yard setback, et cetera. And then again, the two-family living just wasn't viable. One family was going to sell. So any of the people we've done feasibility studies for in the last 2 years since Dr. McGlone died, none of it's been viable, or it's always been multifamily, which is not permitted.
Rich, was there ever any attempt to market the space to another optometrist?
There was an optometrist that was interested. They decided we met with them, and maybe I put my thumb on the scale a little bit. Their business was a lot more intense than Dr. McGlone. So we directed them up, and they have purchased the Zerlip building, which is a commercial building in the CMO zone, where medical uses are permitted on the other side of Bleecker, and they've got probably double the space because it's a much bigger operation. So we did try to get a light use, so we wouldn't have to come back to the board. Paradoxically, Dr. McGlone had 2 non-permitted uses. There was the doctor's office, and there was that's 500-600 square feet of the space dedicated to retail sales of eyeglasses. So there were 2 uses. We're taking out that second use, but what happens is when you remove the 600 square feet of retail, and you replace it with medical, which is at a higher parking count, we actually upped our parking count by 1. So whereas Dr. McGlone needed 17 spaces, we need 18 spaces, 8 are provided. So we increased the intensity by 1. Just to finish off the photos, this is the 4-family that was built on the corner. You can see there's adequate landscaping. There is lighting that shines down into the parking lot and the perimeter. There are 8 spaces, including a handicap accessible space. And you can see that there's an existing 6-foot fence, which actually used to meet the buffer requirement back in the day for separation between residential and commercial. What I also wanted to show was the view of Main Street. Although our applicant, who hasn't given their hours of operation and their intensity yet, they will, but they are a less intense use than the prior doctor was. What's interesting about the resolution, which you haven't read yet, is the Dr. McGlone indicated all the spaces, the 8 spaces on the site would be reserved for patients, because he saw 6 to 8 patients at any one given time, and all of his employees would park on the street, which they did. This tenant actually feels, given their intensity, given the nature of their use, that both the staff as well as visiting patients can all be on the site. But I wanted to show photograph 5 and 6, which were taken at 11:45 this morning, looking down towards Mia Familia, back up towards the corner where ShopRite is. You can see that there's not one car parked there. Parking is available from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 2-hour parking. There is always parking available. One contractor pulled up to talk to me because he saw me taking pictures, but that guy was there to see me and left. So for the most part, there's adequate parking. So even in the rare event, for some reason, a space was filled on a Saturday, the second floor tenant always gets 1 space. As long as I've been there, that same tenant has that 1 car. But if for some reason that tenant had 3 guests stay over at night on a Saturday, and the doctor had patients, there's more than adequate parking on the street to handle any potential overflow. We then go back to our site plan. What we generally do, it's a little hard to see up here, but it's a little better in your packets, but we take the existing site and we screen it, and then we, in a darker tone, we put all the proposed site improvements. You'll see there's nothing dark, except we showed the buffers. There are no changes to the site. So if you look down the site data box, again, it gets confusing because it allows two-family attached dwellings and apartments, we're none of those. So it's a complicated grid, but the most important thing is on proposed, you'll see everything is no change coming all the way down. The only thing that is that we have 8 spaces are proposed and existing. We went from 17 up to 18, so that's listed as what we consider to be a new variance. Everything else were existing non-conforming conditions that are to remain. We need variance relief as a D1 variance to permit a non-permitted medical use. And it's a tricky question because we already had a medical use, but the nature was there was specific testimony given that it was an optometrist, what the nature of their business was, and there was a retail component. So since we deviate from that, we're back for another D1 variance from this board. We also need a C variance for parking, and that's where, again, 18 are required, 8 are provided. It's a deficiency of 10. Again, since the prior use had a little bit of retail, they only required 17. That was a deficiency of 9 spaces that was approved, so now we're asking for an increase in that deficiency of 1 space. Existing non-conforming conditions that are on the site that were referenced in prior applications are the buffer requirements. You have a buffer requirement from a non-residential use to a residential use in the adjoining. We don't need any of the buffers. We have some existing non-conforming conditions as to the side yard and rear setbacks. We also have I mentioned before, we don't comply with the signage because there's only 2 square feet of signage allowed in the zone. But since we are less than what was approved for Dr. McGlone, we don't need variance relief for that. And there are some design waivers in the parking lots for a few areas where if you back up, there's a little elevated concrete landing where you don't quite meet the backup. And our stalls are a little shallow. So 9 by 19 is required. 9 by 16 was approved by this board in 2008. And the aisle width at that one minimal point, we've got a 21.5-foot backup where 23 was required. Again, that was all shown exactly this way on the McGlone application in 2008. So with regard to the planning testimony, a D variance, obviously any variance you need to show you meet the positive and the negative criteria. To advance the positive criteria for a D1 variance, we need to show that the site is particularly suited for the proposed use, and this advances or further advances the first purpose of zoning, and that's general welfare. We think that the site is particularly suited for the proposed use. Obviously, it's and if we pay particular attention to the impact on the neighborhood, this site has been used for commercial purposes for at least 50 years that I know of, and I don't know who was there before the item was there. The site has an off-street parking lot to provide 8 vehicles, again, which is more akin to a commercial use than a residential use, and it's sized perfectly to meet the user's needs. And furthermore, the area along Main Street has an abundance of underutilized street parking. Again, went from 7 to 7 p.m. 2-hour parking, which dovetails fine with a visit. And again, I would point out in that resolution, you'll see Dr. McGlone's testimony in 2008 was that he would have 6 to 7 patients and 4 to 6 staff on site every day. And the resolution specifically stated that the parking lot would be reserved for patients and staff and doctors would use available street parking. Obviously, we're not looking to continue that condition any longer. And I think you'll hear testimony from the dentist that her operation will be significantly less than Dr. McGlone's. And the site is not viable for any of the permitted uses. So certainly it makes it appropriate for commercial, and I think it's particularly suited for this level of intensity for this doctor, and that being less than the prior doctor. Other purposes advanced. It eliminates a 2-year vacancy. Dr. McGlone died a little over 2.5 years ago. There's been really no viable takers on this building, either leasing or to purchase. And we're providing for a variety of commercial uses to meet the needs of the community. There are no dentists. There's a lot of medical and surgical offices in the CMO zone. So we deem that right across the street, we deem that medical offices are appropriate. There are no dentists. So by adding a dentist into an existing commercial space, I think we're providing a need. All other variances, the parking variance and any of the other existing non-conforming conditions, they're generally considered to be subsumed for the positive purposes. They're considered to be subsumed in the D variance. And I think it's especially appropriate here since the deviations specifically relate to the longstanding commercial use. And they're all pretty much existing non-conforming conditions. The negative criteria, again, in 2 prongs, if there's no substantial detriment to the public good and there's no substantial impairment to the intent and purpose of the master plan, we think there is no detriment to the public good. I would like to see someone in that building because I think whenever it's occupied, they get maintained much better than they do when they're vacant. The site has been a commercial use forever. I wish we could bring the bar back with the good hamburgers, but the dentist office will be less intense in the prior medical use. The number of on-site parking will be adequate to support both the employees and patients of the dental practice without the need to rely on street parking for daily operations, but it is there and it's abundant. Deliveries will be consistent with the prior approval. Pretty much everything comes by FedEx except in Dr. McGlone's application because they did a trade in contacts. They receive delivery every day. We don't think that they'll need to get deliveries every day for this use. There's always some potential negative impact of having a commercial use in relationship to residential. But I think in this case, there's really no change to the neighborhood. And I think it's good for the neighborhood. With regard to the master plan, the primary objective is to protect the character of established residential neighborhoods and encourage land use and development that are appropriate at an appropriate scale and density. We think we have no negative impact on the surrounding residences. Again, we think they're a little more intense use than we are. And another goal number 4 of the 2018 master plan is to maintain and enhance the economic vitality of downtown and other business districts. And this really does act as a business district. So we believe it is not inconsistent with the master plan. The Medici Court says we have an enhanced burden of proof is that we need to reconcile the omission of this use from the zone. If this is such a good use, even though it's been there for so many years, why didn't the framers of the master plan consider that? And usually it's because the use is too new. But in this case, in 2018, they very specifically looked at this zone and reconsidered that it should probably be changed. So the recommendations on page 53 of the 2018 master plan is that the township should examine whether lots in the R8 zone along Main Street should be rezoned for office/commercial use to better reflect the current development pattern. So I think we meet the enhanced burden of proof because the township was already thinking that it would probably be better use if we took some of these, and that's even before the floodplain change, and we ratified them and made them as permitted conditional uses. I think it meets the positive and negative criteria. I did foreshadow some of my the client's testimony, and I think they'll back that up. I hope. I wasn't expecting to lead off, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
So can I make a suggestion, please? So typically, I can't remember the set of that, but we've heard planning testimony before we've heard testimony from the applicant in terms of operations and how the site's gonna work and all that. And unfortunately, my recommendation before Mr. Keller got started is that we're gonna have to hear from Mr. Keller again, even though in a much more truncated manner in terms of the various proofs for the positive and negative criteria, given this is a deed and use variance. So what I'm gonna suggest is that before you ask Mr. Keller any questions, why don't we hear from the applicants? Let's go through Mr. Petto's planning report, talk about operations and other things. I'm sure there may be some questions from the board, from the public, and then we can get back to some planning questions, unless any member of the public, any member of the board, and there'll be plenty of time for questions from the public, has any engineering questions for Mr. Keller. Okay. So why don't we go, Mr. Jackman, to your clients?
I'm going to introduce Dr. Nikita Garadia. If you could introduce yourself and your background and.
Hi, everyone. So I have been a resident of the town since about 9 years now, and absolutely love the community. I hold a degree from Rutgers School of Dental Medicine, and I've been working extensively in private offices, which across North Jersey. I currently work at Florham Park and Avenel, and previously have worked in Bayonne, Jersey City, and Union. It has been my lifelong dream to own my own practice, and I started thinking about turning this into a reality a few years back. We started looking around for opportunities, and after searching everywhere, we came across 249 Main Street. We spent the last few months thinking, thinking about the reason why we should go for this. It has been empty for a year, like Rich mentioned, and while it is a little bigger than what I was looking for, it has the layout, the location is great, and the other aspects of the property which are ideal fit for a dental office. So yeah, if you have, let me know your questions.
Why don't we jump into a little bit more questions for you? Why specifically is this property good for you in terms of location, layout, et cetera?
So since it was initially used for the ophthalmologists and the opticians, I could immediately imagine it to work for a dental office. It had the layout that I always had in mind for my office. It has a great reception area, and it can work for operatories, for a common area, sterilization, and all the other needs. And the size of it works really well, especially after COVID, because we are looking for more distancing and greater protocols after all of that. So this really fits the bill.
Can you describe for the board a little bit about how your practice is going to start?
So it's going to be a startup, and hence I'm thinking that we will start with one assistant and one front desk. I will be running one column per day. I will start with a couple of days in a week. I'll continue to work with my private offices, and as we grow is when we will start every all the weekdays.
What are your hours going to look like once you're full?
I'm thinking about 9 to 5.
So general working hours.
When you say 9 to 5, is that Monday through Friday? You're going to have weekend hours?
So initially it would be a couple of days of the week, and then it will ramp up to every weekday. And then eventually it could be every other Friday or every other Saturday.
Can you just mention again specifically number of staff? It's you as the main doctor, and then what does the other staff look like, number of people specifically?
So it could be about 2 people in the beginning, and as we scale up, it will. I would love to have a hygienist. So it would be approximately 2 to 3 more people when we are fully functioning.
And the residential apartment that's there, are you going to make any change to that?
No, the renter is going to continue staying in the same area.
Okay, and continue to have parking, or is that going to change?
Yeah, he'll continue to have 1 parking spot.
Okay, and your how many patients are you estimating to see at any specific time?
So initially the plan is to have 1 column, so it's usually 1 patient per hour, but then it could be a couple of times depending on emergencies. Considering it's a dental practice and there are emergencies, it could be about 2 patients per hour, but that will probably happen later.
I think that's really all the questions we have. All the questions I have for you. If the board has any questions.
Is it adults only, or is it pediatric as well?
It will be for everybody, pediatric and adult.
I think I counted like 8 bays on the plans, is that correct? Are there spots for potentially 8 patients at once? Because there's like seats, did I count that wrong? It looked like the layout.
No, there are 4 bays. The rest is lab room, sterilization room, a consultation room, a private office for the staff at the back. So they look exactly like the bays,
Okay,
but they're effectively offices.
thanks for clarifying. that. So at the very most, there could be how many people, if you were like operating at 100%, you could have 4 patients, 1 in each chair. Hypothetically, if you brought in another dentist,
Let me ask you part of that question. The flow of the practice, is that generally that you have 4 patients in chairs, or is there any rotation that goes on between
Usually
chairs?
a rotation. So when we bring one patient in, we start with prepping like x-rays and stuff like that. And then while that is being done, we might check in the next patient in the next room. So we always want 2 operatories for any provider just as a backup, especially since, you know, a lot of the treatment could be emergency based. We do backup and then we just need that overflow.
So would you be planning to have all bays, all rooms occupied at any given time?
Typically not, unless it's like a very busy day. It just ends up being a day like that.
so that's your plan, but potentially you could have 4 patients and then a consultation, so would that be 5?
No, the consultation is usually with the patient who is already getting treatment done. And when we do evaluation, we have comprehensive plans, so we need to discuss it with the patient. And considering HIPAA, we cannot discuss it in front of everybody. And we might have to explain everything, show models. So we prefer having a consultation room where we can be seated, show them the treatment plan, what to expect for the treatment and stuff like that.
So maximum number of patients you could possibly have in the building at a time?
Is 4, maybe.
4,
Yeah.
okay. And do you have any plans to bring in a second dentist?
Not right away because it's a startup. So I'm expecting the growth to be like slow because it takes time.
But you could potentially bring in a second dentist?
Ideally, the first step would be to have a hygienist, not a associate dentist.
A hygienist, so
Yeah.
that individual would be possibly cleaning teeth at the same time, so that maybe you would have 4 patients then? Sorry to be, I'm trying to get like a realistic answer for.
Right. I think that, I think that part of your intention to be having 4 patients, or do you expect that, as a hygienist is looking, someone else is cleaning a room and there's a consultation going on?
Right. So it typically could be like, if it's at full capacity at maybe in the evening, at some point it could be 4 patients, but usually in the daytime, we do not expect it to be all 4 at the same time.
And if you had a second dentist, could you exceed 4?
Yes, but I would like, that wouldn't make sense to have a second dentist if we don't have enough chairs to work off.
So I
This
think
space is limited by.
Yeah, the
Right, so I
operatories.
think where
Okay.
Ms. Truitt's going is, are you willing to stipulate, because part of the board's evaluation, or, as Mr. Keller stated, the positive and negative criteria that the board needs to weigh. Are you willing to stipulate as a condition of any possible approval by the board, having a limit to the number of dentists practicing in the building?
I think of course, we'd prefer not to. If you once you have a chance to look at the prior resolution, Dr. McGlone did have 2 optometrists working there.
I know the practice really well.
I-
The McGlone practice, and they were never all operating at the same time.
Totally understand that.
Okay.
So I think the intention is that, given the space, given the layout of the interior floor plan, having 2 full-time dentists would also not make sense in the given space.
Right.
It is possible that there's a second dentist, because when she takes off, it's always nice to have coverage and not close down the practice. But given the restrictions of the space, having a second full-time, is that accurate?
Right.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but I think what I'm trying to establish is how many people would be what is the maximum number of people that could be in the building at the same time, given possibly a
The
hygienist,
patients and the assistants and the
a
staff.
secretary,
Yeah, so it
Like the
could,
front office staff.
front office.
So maximum,
it could,
what you're asking for, unless I'm wrong,
Yeah.
is in a normalized state, aspirationally, what's the max we could fill it, right? is effectively 4 staff, right? That includes her, because that's her plus 2 assistants, front office, hygienist. And so the reason she works in multiple clinics right now, which is part of the course in the industry, is there's always a backup, because dentists don't usually work 52 weeks a year. So you kind of have to supplement that by having secondary dentists in the mix. So usually we consider that a half resource, right? Because if they're there, she or the other hygienist may or may not be there the very same day. So it's 4 staff and maximum 4 patients at any point in time. Now, to her point, they're also riddled, unfortunately, with a lot of emergencies.
Yeah.
So could there be 1, 2, or 3 patients bathing in the bathing area at any point in time on a specific day in a month? Maybe. So that's not something you can really control. But generally, on a normalized basis, right, it's like the 7 to 8.
7 to 8 people with the potential to go up to 11.
Yeah.
Right, so are you willing to stipulate as to maximum of 4 staff and how many patients at any one time?
Four. Approximately 4, if everything's running smoothly.
The patients would be a little harder to stipulate only because of emergency situations.
Well, you can say 4 and 4 except in the case of.
Okay.
I think as with Dr. McGlone, the most important thing is that there's some flexibility to bring in a second dentist. At some point, they're gonna retire, you wanna transition. So I know Dr. McGlone did the same thing. If someone came in, a doctor came in to have part-time, their name was on the door, but part-time for that transition to take place. Unfortunately, Dr. McGlone died way too young, but it's always important to have that transition. So, and that was what Dr. McGlone was thinking when we did that for 2008. It's critical that he have the ability to have at least a second professional. But I think if they're willing to stipulate that 4, that would include a hygienist as well a billing person, that works, as long as there's not a limit to only 1 dentist.
No, just the whole point is that at one time, what's the max?
Just intensity
You
views.
can have 3 dentists. It's just-
The challenge is, the challenge is the unpredictability. Like, we could commit to you saying X number, but the reality is there are always edge cases where we can't really control that. And the unfortunate part, right, at that point in time, is to deny a patient saying, oh, you can't come in with, you could be patient number 5, 6, or 7, functionally because you already have 4 in the seat. That's the velocity and volatility, unfortunately.
Right, but what this board's job is to do is to assess the variances. One of the sides, if you require a use variance, you also require a parking variance. So all these questions are legitimate and go to the use and trying to minimize the intensity of the use so that there's sufficient off-street parking, which is what the intent of the ordinance is.
But I think the Rob's suggestion that a maximum with a little flexibility for emergencies would certainly work. It's obviously not going to be full time. I'll be the first one complaining if I get in front of my office. But I think that can work with what we've talked about. Clearly, if there's an emergency and someone walks in, you're not going to deny.
There's also
So the
one other mention point.
So the other
A benefit of the property. Is there any other benefits of the property?
Yeah, so the other reason why we also love the property is its access from the public transportation. There are enough buses that come there. And also there's a train station. So the idea is that if there is a possibility that the staff members can avoid driving, then the idea is to use the public transportation and also like carpool if that is possible, to minimize the number of cars that the staff would require to park in the parking areas, allowing the patients to have the parking spots available to them.
So I'm assuming the current proposal is to have the employees park in the parking lot, right? Because you're ramping up to start. Correct. So you're just gonna have 1 or 2 staff members. Correct. Right, so you're gonna park. Right. But if once you ramp up, you're willing, if there's not enough parking for the patients, to instruct your staff members to park on the street or find other places to park. Right?
Absolutely. Including for her.
Yeah. I can bike.
With the stipulation, nothing from my
You can
building.
bite down.
Don't be selfish, Mr. Keller. There was something about existing illuminated box sign on the south facade to be removed.
Yes,
That is
it's going to be
plan of the
removed.
ordinance.
That is
Yeah.
absolutely being removed.
Yeah.
If the board would like, we do have a mock-up of the proposed signage. If you'd like to see it, it is in compliance with what has been previously approved. And I think this would be A3 or 4?
A3.
A3. So, you guys see it?
Thank you so much.
There was a comment from Mr. Petto regarding construction logistics regarding the interior renovation and the fit up.
Yeah,
Including involving like staging and deliveries and things like that.
Yeah, all the construction-related equipment and staging will remain entirely on-site with full parking access and availability to the existing tenant. We will be using the back door to manage the demo debris as well as bringing in the new materials and equipment. During the construction phase, we will be housing all the needed material within the building, and everything else will be stored at the vendor's warehouse. The tenant has a separate entry from the front foyer, which will be undisturbed.
Are you doing anything about when you walk into the space? There's really annoying steps that head up to where you have your treatment area. They're shown on your floor plan.
Yeah.
area right here.
Yeah.
Okay? Those can't be ADA compliant. Is there anything you can do about that, or is that not possible?
It's based
You
on
know
what
what
we
I'm
know.
talking about, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we've had contractors, engineers, architects, equipment vendors, everybody come in so far. And structurally, it's not possible.
Yeah.
And hence there is a back door that is actually flat with the parking lot.
Access.
And that's ADA compliant to kind of give them direct entry into the treatment rooms.
Thank you.
Is there parking back there though?
Yes, it's
there
the
is.
parking
It's
lot
accessible.
extends all
That's
the way
still
to
parking.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
It's still safe. ADA compliant.
Fair question.
I have a question for you, Mr. Simon. So there's 8 variances, but how many of them do we really need to consider because they've had prior approval?
So look, I think the only significant variances that you need to assess are the parking, right? Because, now they need, one extra space.
Yeah.
Because they took what I'll call the optician area and they're converting it to medical/dental space. And then also a use variance. And so part of the use variance analysis, besides the positive and negative criteria and enhanced quality of proof, and Mr. Keller went over it, is that every use variance is different, right? So Dr. McGlone had a certain way of operating with a certain intensity of use. This is a new use with a new intensity of use, and the board needs to assess that in relation to not only the prior use, because I will tell you, as Mr. Keller stated, that Dr. McGlone hasn't been practicing there for a couple of years, whether you want to call it abandoned or not, is sort of beside the point. I think every case is different, and you have to look at this user in relation to the positive and negative criteria for a D1 use variance. Is this space particularly suited to the use, right? Does it meet the negative criteria? I do believe that, if I recall correctly, that regarding this particular portion of the township, that there was a question raised in the master plan about whether residential development in the future is viable, given the floodplain that Mr. Keller testified to, the existing development pattern along Main Street in that area. So that all needs to be considered as part of your role. I don't know if that answered the question. but-
All right, so really just 2, parking and use.
Yeah,
variance.
I think that the others, whether you want to call them subsumed into the use variance or previously addressed by other applications. I don't think they're as relevant.
And the
as
loading
as
one?
the use variance. What I would do is I would ask the applicant, what are your expectations regarding deliveries of
You
supplies
mentioned it a
and
little bit
equipment?
already, right?
Yes,
For
so on
the
a-
construction?
During
For
practice.
the practice, typically we have just deliveries from the labs, which are like they are drop off. It's like no different than a Amazon delivery or something like that, which can be just dropped off at the front.
And except for during the construction phase.
Except for
That
the
won't exist during
construction.
construction.
That's
Right.
Yeah.
Will there be X-ray equipment on site?
yes.
And will you have like, I guess you'll build protections for the
Yes. Yeah.
residents?
So there's a separate room that's been carved out called the imaging alcove with all those protections around the wall specifically for them.
And the noise like zzz.
The hand pieces.
Yeah, will there be soundproofing on the resident that's above you? I mean.
The compressor would not be affecting the renter.
The noise would be.
It won't be.
Somehow.
It won't. It's not going to be affecting the upstairs
No, because bulk of the heavy machinery actually is going to go in the basement.
basement.
And
But
there
if
will
you're
be,
drilling like a cavity out of it,
not really.
But that won't. That's not so loud like that. That
that never happens anymore with all of that.
like it won't be any different than kids playing.
Actually, the renter is over the reception area and the
Ah.
waiting room. So
Yeah,
the
so not over
operatories
this-
are in the one-story portion that's behind them.
Okay, thank you.
Quick question for Mr. Keller. The parking requirement, it's 18 spaces here required versus existing is 8. How do you reconcile the two? I mean, why do we need one space? I didn't quite get that.
Well, what I said for Dr. McGlone, when you went through the matrix, because Dr. McGlone, a portion of that, so medical is 1 per 150, 1 space per 150. Retail is 1 per 200. So there's a less parking requirement for retail. So because Dr. McGlone in his lobby, in his waiting room, had a area carved out specifically for retail sales of glasses, we were able to assess that at the lower number. So with Dr. McGlone, they only, for the same square footage, and his 2 uses, he required 17 spaces, 8 existed. For this use, because we're getting rid of that retail component and we're assessing at the higher parking value, we now need 18 or 8 are permitted. So the intensity, so there was a 9-car parking deviation approved in 2008. We're now looking to make it 10, so we go by 1.
And I think what's significant here is that it's testified to by the applicant that they're not proposing any evening hours. Right, 9 to 5.
So I actually only saw Dr. McGlone once or twice, not that regularly. But I know in his testimony, there was 1 doctor, 1 part-time doctor, 4 full-time staff and 2 part-time staff. So there was between 6 and 8 employees on staff. And maybe not in the final years, but that's what they had testified to. And then they indicated that there would be availability for between 6 and 7 patients, could be. And so that comes out to be, up to 15, whereas our applicant has indicated that their maximum, everything goes great, is going to be 8, 4 and 4 in the worst case. So I still think it's a less intense use. And whereas Dr. McGlone was relying on on-street parking for his employees and second professional and himself most of the time, that really will no longer be required. So while there's parking available and the doctors indicated that in those unlikely event that you have an emergency and they're backed up, they can park their staff on the street. So this parking lot actually, I think, in my opinion, works better for this particular type of medical office, this particular dentist, than it did previously. Now, obviously, Dr. McGlone's practice ebbed and flowed. It was busy for some years and slower in others. But I think the important part is that there's plenty of parking on site and there's plenty of parking off site. Adequate parking. There will always be one reserved for the residential tenant. So I think parking really is not an issue. And we don't get very many buildings in the commercial districts anywhere that have 8 spaces. So certainly not in the B4 Central Business District. And you don't find residential properties with 8 parking spaces. So I think the site is particularly suited for this particular use.
And Mr. Chair, even if, as often happens in the dental business, where with startups, you want to get patients. So very oftentimes, dentists buy other dentist practices, dentists die or go on disability, and people buy up their practices or their books, so to speak. Done a lot of that work. And so, but by having these safeguards in place in terms of having, ceilings and maximums, it, helps mitigate against any type of over-intensification of use, particularly with regard to the space and the parking.
You just need to be reassured, as I'm sure you have to prove with your prior tenant, the prior owner or practitioner, that there is enough space for everybody, that it won't be a burden on the community in that area. So, it's just, that's the burden that we have to.
Yeah, except for times of paving, anyone who's done work on my office, we've never parked on Ocean or the side streets. There's always been plenty of parking on Main Street, which is obviously a major feeder into the town. So I think, I can't see there'd be any negative impact on residents on Ocean or Mechanic or going up to Willow. Because there's just, as was shown in those photographs, there's just ample parking. And people don't like to walk, so they'll park as closely as they can.
Yeah. And there's a bus stop, you said very close.
The number 70 bus is right across. Yeah, stops at ShopRite.
Any other questions?
Questions for?
Anyone in the audience who has any questions? Is there anyone in the audience who has any comments? Okay.
So before we continue, so Mr. Keller, you've heard the testimony of the applicants with regard to this, and you've previously provided some planning testimony to support the positive and criteria for the C&D variances. Is it safe to assume that, based on the testimony that you just heard made part of the public record, that it only amplifies and strengthens the reasoning behind your stellar testimony earlier in the year?
Absolutely. It's 10:30. You want me to be brief, right?
That's why I asked the question. Exactly. Thank you.
There's more.
Well said, Mr. Keller.
Board members, would you like to make any comments?
I think the use is particularly suited to this property. I think it's positive for the town that the space will be filled finally. I don't see there being a significant parking issue. It seems like the on-space parking will be sufficient. Obviously, there's a risk and a hope that your practice grows and that we'll have more patients, but it seems like based on the testimony that there is adequate parking around the office as well off-site. So I think that this is a positive for the town, and that the requirements for the D variance and the parking variance or the C variance have been met, and I would be supportive of the application.
I concur.
Agreed.
Yep, great.
Okay, so are we going to?
I think that based on the discussion amongst the board, I think you can just make one motion. Keeping in mind, though, that it's a D variance, D1 variance, the hardest variance to get, and it requires 5 affirmative votes to get approval. So I would suggest that if anybody has any questions about the D versus the C, et cetera, we should take 2 separate votes. But I haven't heard anything.
I have a question, just do you want to, should we add a stipulation that there be no more than whatever X number of people in
So,
the
yeah, so
property,
one
except
of
for the
the,
event of
one of the
emergencies?
conditions of approval will be that there'll be a maximum of 4 staff and 4 patients at any one time, except in the event of an emergency, patient.
Patient emergency, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, stop. So she's going into training. You're good with that. No, sometimes you don't know about training.
We're not quite comfortable with that condition. There might be times where there's a training staff person who's shadowing or an extra person around, and we don't want to run afoul of any problems. The space will constrain too much use, and certainly will constrain intensification of the property, but limiting to those numbers is going to be a little tough.
You had given us a number previous, was it 11 people? What was it? Yeah. we
11,
talked
right,
about-
if you assume, because one
Yeah.
challenge also is, and I'll let her speak, in the last 2 years as an example, the dentist at any point in time needs 2 assistants, because that's how we work each alternate room. In the last, year and a half or 2, she cycled through 15, just because they leave at a very high velocity, because they're all paid by the hour. And so at all points in time, she's constantly having to train multiple assistants. And so is there a possibility while she has 2, she's training a third as a backup or 4th? Absolutely. Because if there is no assistant, that's a lost day for her. She can't work, she can't treat patients, there's no revenue, nothing of that type. So you can't really run that risk in this business, because you can't even contract the assistants saying, it's mandatory, they're at will. So that's always been a constraint for us. And that's where it gets tricky, because then the legality comes into play. Oh shit, you got a backup over here who's a 5th, sorry, right? And then we go afoul of some stipulation, which, yeah.
Oops, we all.
Yeah. So,
What is the number? What is the number that you propose in terms of maximum?
max occupants on a given day?
Subject to emergencies.
Yeah.
So taking into account your potential need to train additional staff,
I'd say,
you gotta give us a reasonable number
Yeah.
of what you can do.
Where's that? So it's like 1, 4, 11, it's like, right? Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I think it'll be like maximum 12.
We have to make it 12.
No, we've already spoken
We
about
had said
11
11.
before.
We had explained it earlier,
Uh,
but maybe go
yeah.
ahead.
And so if you think about one dentist, a hygienist, 2 assistants, a front office staff who will also alternate, maybe hopefully as an assistant. So that's, peak level 5 right there. You have 4 patients, that's 9. Account for, patients in the waiting room. It could be 1, 2, or 3. I'm not accounting for.
Wait a second.
Yeah,
Going back.
that's, yes,
Guys,
right.
come on. So before, a maximum of 4 staff and 4 patients at any one time, except due to patient emergencies, was okay. Now we're talking about many more, we're talking about other circumstances. So,
I think the confusion was
Yeah.
that there's, the expectation is about 8 in normal practice times. If everything's running smooth, it would be 8. But then there might be times where there's a training person. That brings it up to 9, maybe 10. We had discussed the number 11 had been floated earlier. So we're right really in that range. And we don't want to quibble over a person here or there. So quite honestly, we rounded just slightly up to be safe. We don't want to have a problem with.
why don't we just say
an
a
approval.
maximum of 4 staff and 4 patients at any one time, except due to patient emergencies or for staff training?
So the trickiness with that is, while we schedule each patient for an hour, sometimes depending upon the severity of the treatment, which she has no clue until the patient sits on the chair, there have been situations where she's treating the same patient for 3 hours. So what that functionally does, it backs up patients in the waiting room. So they're still going to show up. And you, at that point in time, can be in a situation where you tell the patient, sorry, you got to go back home because we don't have capacity to host you because we don't have the parking, just like using that as an example. Is that a regular thing? No, but it's frequent enough that it's not atypical. Right? If it's a tough root canal, if it's an implant, it's a crown, it takes a bit and a half, more than an hour to effectively fix. So you kind of have to provision for that because there's too much uncertainty. Like what I do for a living has a lot more certainty, she doesn't. And that's kind of like the challenge that we have to deal with.
Would it be possible for your front staff to mitigate some of that, to say, oh, we've had an emergency, we need to call you or move your appointment?
Typically, we do try to do that, but the thing is that if the patient is already on the way or is already
That would be one patient, but it wouldn't be. 3 or 4.
right, but it's just like considering the worst case scenario.
So that would fall in the realm of emergency, which would be covered by the stipulation.
I think we would be willing to accept a 10 people restriction.
Subject to the emergency.
Yes, subject to emergencies, absolutely. That's unfortunately the medical world. We have to.
I mean, the fact that you're going through this and like you're conscientious to say that you're trying not to break anybody's
We don't-
heart on parking, but you also don't want to be.
We don't want to be
You're
back
like
here
lying
because
on
of,
the board.
we don't want to be back here for one
Oh, yeah.
person because staff is
Calling
moving
her.
around.
That's
So-
reasonable.
So we're trying to work, I think 10 is a reasonable number given immediate growth and future. And, you know, if all works out well and we need more, at that point, at past 10, we can come back and discuss.
Certainly.
Back to business.
Motion to approve.
I don't get paid enough.
I'll move to approve the application, subject to the requirements at the max of 10, subject to an emergency situation.
Second.
I am Joseph.
And this is for both the D
For
and
both
C
the D and the parking.
Yes.
So we're not saying 4 staff or patients, we're just saying.
We're saying a maximum of 10
10
staff and patients,
staff.
combination at any one time except for emergencies for patients.
Emergency and staff training, are we including that?
No, just patient except for patient emergencies.
Joseph Crawford,
Yes.
Shadru Harjan,
Yes.
Gary Rosen.
Yes.
Regina Truitt.
Yes.
Priscilla Sarab.
Yes.
Joanne Peng.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
We need more Dennis.
No, I appreciate the patience. It's done 40.
Yeah.
So is Eileen gonna be monitoring this?
We don't have, we don't have executive session.
I think Priscilla should do it.
What did he say?
You gotta leave one parking space for Eileen to monitor the number of patients.
Anybody?
Okay, does someone want to motion to adjourn?
So
I will move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
All right, now we get to speak while my phone is blown up.